Chapter 16:12. I should not be as bad as Tatsumi. Pointing to Tatsumi, Dustless asked directly regardless of Tatsumi's bitter face. You are indeed much better than him and you are more trustworthy. Mine just nodded slightly when she heard the words and she didn't care about Tatsumi's green face. Poor Tatsumi. A group of night raid members heard the words and stared at Tatsumi with pity. It was not that he couldn't do it or he was too bad. On the contrary, Tatsumi was very hardworking and enterprising. This was also the reason why Bullet valued him. But his competitor, Dustless, was too heaven-defying. In the final analysis, it was not that Tatsumi's ability was bad, but he was unlucky to meet such a powerful opponent like Dustless. Compared with the two, Tatsumi was trash and the name of Dustless was confirmed. Let's call it a day. It was almost midnight. The boss Najenda waved her hand, indicating that everyone could disperse and rest. As an assassin, they must have enough energy. In the early morning of the next day, the sun rose from the east, and the sunshine was thousands of miles away. Several figures gathered in the conference room that usually had meetings. Now the sun is shining on the but mine is still sleeping? This boss is too unqualified. She will definitely lead me and Dustless to the ditch. Tatsumi looked at the scorching sun in the distance, full of complaints. On the other hand, Wuxia was reading books lazily. Unknowingly, he had developed the habit of reading books. When he was bored in every world, he would read books. It was necessary to supplement his knowledge. Dustless, greeting the boss is also the work of the subordinates. This task is given to you. Hurry up, we still have a major task to perform today. Najenda looked at Dustless, meaning to let him call mine. It's finally fair for once. Tatsumi breathed a sigh of relief. He and mine didn't deal with each other. Dustless was the best scapegoat. No problem. Dustless heard the words and nodded. He turned and left the conference room and walked to mine's room. The new entrusted task is coming. The target to eliminate this time is the distant relative of Minister Ernest, Iokal. This guy uses his identity to bully people and do all kinds of evil things. He has done countless bad things. Since no one can punish him, then I will attack Heaven's punishment at night and eliminate him. As soon as Dustless left, the boss said today's task. Because the target was a distant relative of Ernest, and there was the protection of the masters of Huangquan Temple, in view of the danger of this task, and now that his death suddenly returned to the capital, Najenda decided to attack at night. At the same time, Wuxia also walked to mine's room. Dong dong. After knocking on the door twice, Wuxia saw that no one responded, so he gently pushed the door. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. The scene in front of him made Dustless lost his mind for a few seconds. He saw that mine was preparing to wear clothes. At this moment she only wore a pink bra and pink briefs. Her white skin was all exposed in front of Dustless's eyes. Both of them were a little dull and they looked at each other stupidly for a while. Mine's room was in a mess. The clothes were scattered all over the floor. A lot of underwear all appeared in front of Dustless's eyes. The scene was suddenly very embarrassing. Boy, choose a way to die that you like. Mine's face turned red instantly. Her romantic taigu, pumpkin. The front of the muzzle had condensed a lot of flashes. She aimed at Dustless's head mercilessly. The light was about to destroy Dustless's body. This has nothing to do with me. Dustless's eyes were indifferent. He said calmly, First of all, I knocked on the door. The person who did not respond is you. It is reasonable for me to break in. Secondly, the boss ordered me to come to meet the boss, so you have to be prepared in advance. Also, the boss said that there is an important task to get rich. The time is tight. I can't wait for you. You are very good at talking. Mine opened her mouth and found that she had nothing to say. Dustless's words were reasonable. She did not respond when he knocked on the door, and Najenda also mentioned this to her. But, your reaction is too strange. You look down on me. You seriously hurt my dignity. Mine's cheeks were full of indignation. The extinguished taigu pumpkin shone again. She blushed as if she had been wronged. Dustless was confused. He did not know what was wrong with this girl. He did not seem to provoke her. Is this girl's head rusty? Dustless looked at the flash that locked him. His cheeks suddenly darkened. He asked angrily, What do you mean? Now tell me clearly. You don't have any reaction when you see my body. You are looking down on me, mocking me that I don't have the charm of a woman. After a while, mine said a very ridiculous answer. No wonder the relationship between Tatsumi and mine is so bad. This girl's head is really broken. Hearing this strange reason, Dustless could not help but be dumbfounded. He raised his middle finger to Mine's strange idea. Dustless broke into the room without knowing it. Mine's aggrieved appearance of crying was still vivid in Dustless' mind. He wanted to dig his eyes out. Now she said that Dustless had no reaction to her body. This was looking down on her. It was simply unreasonable. This time I am unlucky. I didn't look at the almanac when I went out. There is still an assassination task today. Goodbye. Dustless cursed his bad luck secretly. He decisively turned and left. He finally could understand Tatsumi's pain. For Mine, this kind of thinking, he said that he was unable to deal with it. One second she accused him of peeping at her body, and the next second she accused him of having no lust and having no reaction to her body. Was there such a person in the world? If I didn't guess wrong, the assassination target of this mission seems to be the distant relative of Minister Ernest. In the quiet corridor, Dustless muttered, and behind him was the arrogant girl who angrily chased after him, Mine. Chapter 16:13. Mine ran over angrily. She did not expect Dustless to be so arrogant. He should know that she was his boss today. Now this guy did not even respect his boss. Unforgivable. Stop right there. Mine grabbed Dustless's hands and immediately blocked in front of him. She shouted arrogantly, I am your boss today. Pay attention to your attitude. Attitude? What attitude? Dustless ignored her, and then his face showed ridicule. He ridiculed, if you continue to take off your clothes, I must run far away so as not to get involved. You. Mine stamped her feet when she heard the words. Looking at Dustless's particularly annoying face, she couldn't help but be angry. She had to use her trump card. You are not qualified. You are definitely not qualified to be an assassin. Continue to be a cook with Alchemy. That's not up to you. If the boss says so, I have no opinion. Shrugging, Dustless passed over Mine's shoulder and went straight to the direction of the conference room. You better not fall into my hands. Glaring at Dustless fiercely, Mine, who had nowhere to vent her anger, blushed and was extremely uncomfortable. Where is Tatsumi? You two novices are outrageous. One ignored my authority, and the other simply did not come to greet me. Do you still need to say it? That's because Tatsumi looks down on you. Dustless suddenly added fuel to the fire and smiled maliciously. If Mine was willing to beat Tatsumi, it would be a good deal. I will let that guy go for the time being. Mine was not fooled but followed Dustless's footsteps to the conference room. Are you two finally here? As soon as he came in, Tatsumi's strange voice sounded. He tried to capture the depression from Dustless's face. After all, Mine was notoriously difficult to serve. Unexpectedly, Dustless seemed to be fine, but Mine was furious. Mine seemed to notice Tatsumi's sight. Mine just glared at him, and Tatsumi suddenly shrank his neck. Is this guy angry? I didn't offend her. Tatsumi was secretly depressed. He had a feeling of being shot even when he was lying down. He looked at Dustless gloomily. Dustless was definitely the one who set him up. Everyone move out for the night raid. Our target this time is Immortal. I repeat, that guy is a distant relative of Minister Ernest. He is protected by the masters of the Huangquan Temple. Everyone be careful. Boss Najenda finally ordered, and then all the members of the night raid nodded and disappeared. Swish, swish. In the dark room, several black shadows were running around. Everyone's skills were extremely vigorous. Even Tatsumi, a rookie, was improving rapidly. He was trained quite well by Bullet. The members of the night raid barely recognized Tatsumi's existence. The hazy moonlight hung high in the sky, and the night was exceptionally quiet. Do you see that brightly lit villa? That is the place where Immortal lives. There are masters around to protect it. We will definitely suffer if we approach it rashly. It is not far from the capital. Maybe there will be support from the army. Alchemy pointed to the huge building complex in the distance and introduced it to Dustless and others. Let Mine do the long-range sniping. She is a shooting genius, so we will not be exposed. Looking at Mine, Dustless suggested. Of course, I can definitely blow his head. Being praised by Dustless in public, Mine was quite proud. She raised the taigu and looked like she was very strong. But, then Leonette lowered her voice and frowned. Boss asked us to complete the task tonight, but what if Immortal stays at home and doesn't come out? How can Mine snipe? And if the time is delayed for a long time, it will attract the attention of the capital. Minister Ernest attaches great importance to that guy. Lubbock also worried. Recently, his death was searching for them like crazy. If there was any trouble, she would come and find trouble with Night Raid. It's actually very simple to drive Yokel out of the house, Dustless said and attracted everyone's attention. What plan? Night Raid asked curiously. It was difficult to think of a way to end the battle quickly. Hee. Dustless heard the words and just laughed twice. He did not say much. His eyes just looked at Tatsumi. The cunning look made Tatsumi vomit blood. Poochie. The water that he drank a few hours ago was all spat out. Tatsumi knew that Dustless was going to trick him again. Tatsumi went to set fire to the guy's house and he ran out. Dustless said with a smile, unless the guy wants to be burned alive, he will definitely run out of the courtyard. Why don't you go? Tatsumi asked with a black face. I came and others are responsible for blocking the enemy, and I am responsible for protecting the safety of mine. Only you are free. If you don't go, who will go? Dustless asked calmly. You can also go, I am responsible for protecting mine. Tatsumi argued with reason. He was particularly unhappy to be ordered by Dustless. Because I am stronger than you, so I am more suitable to protect mine. She is a sniper. She is not good at close combat. I am the one who is best at close combat, Dustless said as a matter of fact. Tatsumi wanted to cry but had no tears. It seemed that he was the weakest in this team. He had no choice but to obey Dustless's order to be responsible for setting the fire. Mine, you decide who will set the fire. Tatsumi looked at the arrogant Mine expectantly with his bright eyes. Unexpectedly, Mine's words made Tatsumi dizzy with anger. You look so bad. If I team up with you, I will definitely be killed first. Dustless is right. You set the fire and he is responsible for covering me. Mine was very comfortable with Dustless's flattery just now. The feeling of floating had not disappeared yet. At the same time, she was disgusted with Tatsumi. This guy was much worse than Dustless. Chapter 16:14. Tatsumi even had the thought of committing suicide. He stared at Mine and Dustless sadly. He did not expect that these two people would go together, and now they even wore the same pants. Tatsumi's mind was blank and confused. Why don't you go? Looking at Tatsumi, who was unlucky, Dustless was particularly refreshed. Phew. Tatsumi did not forget to look at Dustless when he left. Then he went to set the fire without hesitation to carry out the stupid plan of Dustless. For this fantasy plan, Tatsumi naturally resisted. Last time he listened to Dustless's bad idea of dressing as a man. As a result, he was beaten violently by Aoka, who recognized him, and he even lost a few teeth. Tatsumi only hoped to survive this time. It was a good ending if he did not die. Isn't this a bit difficult for Tatsumi? Akane could not bear to stand up. In her eyes, although Tatsumi was unreliable, there was no doubt that he was also one of the companions. Don't worry, as long as I can lead Aoka out, I can kill him in an instant. Mine raised the Taigu pumpkin and said confidently. If Tatsumi can't even complete this kind of thing, I will personally send him home. Bullet suddenly said it was just setting a fire. If he could not complete this, then he should not be a killer. He should go home to wash and sleep quickly. Boom boom boom. Tatsumi did not let everyone down this time. After only a few minutes of sneaking in, he set a fire in several different directions, and the choking smoke rose to the sky. It's better that the kid is burned to death himself. Sitting lazily on the treetop, Dustless picked up a grass in his mouth, and his head lazily rested on his hands, looking at the situation in the distance. After a while he reminded, Mine, the guy named Aoka is coming out, get ready. Impossible. Mine was stunned and then denied. It is hundreds of meters away from Aoka's house. You don't have any instrument to help you. How can human eyes see clearly? If you don't believe it, you can have a look. Dustless shrugged and said indifferently. This. Mine nodded slightly. Through the precise optical telescope in her right eye, the scene hundreds of meters away was very clear. Because the house was burned, Yokel, who escaped in a panic, was panting heavily, and a large number of followers followed behind him. What kind of freak is this guy? Mine scratched her head and couldn't figure out why a human being could see the face of a person hundreds of meters away. This was something that only monsters could do. Few, stable, complex emotions. The Taigu in Mine's hand pointed to Yokel's head. Bang bang. After a while, a gunshot rang out and a golden ray of light shot out, piercing through the night sky and instantly closing in on Yokel's head. Poochie. The next second, his head was pierced by Mine. Good marksmanship. Dustless and others were amazed. At the same time, except for Dustless and mine, the others rushed to the ambush location in advance. Since Yokel was killed, his men would definitely go crazy. If there was no murderer they could not explain to Minister Ernest, then they would die. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Sure enough, Yokel was killed and it immediately attracted countless killers. They all rushed to the place where Mine shot the gun. The mission is completed, let's retreat. Mine stretched out and suggested. The idea is good but we have no chance. Dustless's sight extended to the limit, he could see the wind and grass around him. He sighed, many people are coming, we are surrounded. No. Mine heard the words and suddenly retorted loudly, how long has it been, how can they catch up with us? Did someone lead them here? You're really right. Dustless shrugged and looked along his sight. He found that a thin figure was running quickly. This person was Tatsumi, and behind him was a group of boxing masters of Huangquan Temple. This idiot. Mine's mouth twitched when she saw this. He wanted to shoot Tatsumi, this idiot. Why did he run here? He could change to another position. This kid is also helpless. Dustless rarely helped Tatsumi and said plainly, don't you understand? Tatsumi means to attract all the enemies and annihilate them in one fell swoop. Annihilate them in one fell swoop? Mine's face darkened and she glanced over. There were at least dozens of people. Could they be annihilated at will? Tatsumi's action was a blatant deceptive behavior. Seems that there is no way. I came and the others have left. There are only 3 of us. Dustless frowned. It seemed that Mine himself and Tatsumi were all besieged. This idiot, let me kill Tatsumi first. Mine, who was angry, shouted. The pumpkin even shone and aimed at Tatsumi's head. Didn't I say before, you are responsible for sniping and I am responsible for close combat? Dustless jumped down from the treetop and moved his waist. Under Mine's horrified gaze, a large group of lights condensed in his hand. Yasukani no Magatama. The golden light bullets instantly shot out like countless shooting stars. They were exceptionally dazzling, and they instantly tore apart and exterminated all living creatures. Puchi! 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 Under Mine's surprised gaze, the masters of Huangquan Temple were slaughtered in an instant. The situation was almost overwhelming. There was no difference between the strong and the weak. Anyone who was in contact with the light would definitely die. Everyone showed a painful expression. Their bodies had been destroyed and pierced by the light. They died horribly. Chapter 16:15. Looking at the horrified body, even with Mine's temperament, she was also shocked. Needless to say, Tatsumi was already scared and panicked. Grew. Mine and Tatsumi both choked and looked at Dustless with awe. No matter how the times changed, people's nature of following the strong would not change. This guy. I am not in the same dimension as him. Up to now, Tatsumi also knew the gap with Dustless. This guy was not a human being. Was this kind of trick that killed dozens of people in an instant that a human being should have? Tatsumi's eyes looking at Dustless also changed. Is this guy a human who disguised as a super dangerous species? Tatsumi secretly guessed. In fact, not only Tatsumi had this strange idea, even Mine was no exception. He was shocked by that kind of large-scale trick. It could be confirmed that it was not a taigu, then it could only be a super dangerous species in the legend. Hey, you are not a super dangerous species that turned into a human being. Taigu aimed at Dustless. Mine asked unkindly, you are very suspicious. After hearing the words, Dustless just glanced at Mine faintly. The girl wore a pink dress. A breeze came, the pink ponytail danced with the wind. The delicate face was full of alert. The face was full of confidence. It seemed that she could kill all the enemies. She was very confident in her strength. At this time, Dustless's brows slightly raised, staring at the forest behind Mine. His eyebrows flashed an imperceptible coldness. Phew phew phew. Dustless's incarnation flashed. He appeared behind Mine in a flash like a light, and he held Mine tightly with the speed of lightning. Bastard, what do you want to do? Mine was shocked by this sudden move. Her face suddenly became as red as an apple. When she was about to point at Dustless's nose and scold him, a sudden change occurred. Damn, your reaction is really sharp. A black shadow came out of the woods. It was only an inch away from Mine. Even the cold sword that had been out of the sheath had been taken out of the sheath. It wanted to cut Mine into pieces. Damn it. Mine scolded when she saw this. Her anger toward Dustless also disappeared in an instant. If it weren't for Dustless, maybe she would have been killed. Thinking about it, mine felt a chill. Die. The Imperial Fist Temple attacker who suddenly appeared shouted. The crescent blade in his hand had already stabbed forward. It was so fast that only an afterimage could be seen. So fast. Mine's face changed slightly. Because this person changed his speed quickly and ran in an S-shaped route. Almost every time it was a fleeting moment. In an instant it had approached mine and Dustless. Since you're working so hard, I'll prepare a luxurious funeral for you. Dustless murmured as he glanced at the black afterimage. In the void, countless sharp black blades attacked from all directions. Daobreaker 90 Black Coffin. Although this person ran fast compared with Daobreaker 90 Black Coffin, he was insignificant. His speed was as slow as a turtle and he was killed by Black Coffin in an instant. Poochie. 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 The sound of the body being cut suddenly sounded. The attacker of Imperial Fist Temple disappeared instantly. There were only some bones on the ground, the broken bones and the dismembered internal organs. Vomit, 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 vomit. Seeing such a bloody scene, Tatsumi couldn't help but vomit. Although he had been an assassin for a few days, it was the first time for him to witness such a miserable ending. Cough, cough, cough. Mine coughed twice awkwardly and immediately jumped out of Dustless's arms. She pointed at Dustless and said proudly, "Don't think that you can hug me casually because you saved me." Really? Wuxian just glanced at her coldly and muttered to himself, "I wonder who was the one who was wriggling in my arms like a cat. You?" After these words, Mine instantly blushed and stamped her feet. Then she quickly turned her back to Dustless. It couldn't be helped. It was a nerve reflex that couldn't help. The abnormality of Dustless and Mine attracted the attention of other members of the night raid. When everyone rushed over, the scene was already full of screams. Among the dozens of corpses, only 3 people were alive. Mine, Dustless, and Tatsumi, who was vomiting. In the early morning of the next day, the scorching sun filled the whole sky. Yesterday's task was completed very well. You really didn't let me down, Dustless. Patting Dustless's shoulder, the boss Najenda looked very relieved. As for Tatsumi, he had been ignored by him. Boss. Glancing at Najenda helplessly, Dustless said bluntly, "The boss has a task for me, otherwise she will not come to me early in the morning." You found it? Najenda was surprised and immediately admitted it generously. She cautiously said, "There is indeed a dangerous person." "Is it the beheading Zank? The boss came to witness it because she wants me to kill him. It's better to take back the kid's Taigu, right?" "How do you know?" Najenda was surprised. She didn't tell anyone about it. "It's very simple." Dustless explained and complained to himself. Although the night raid is a killer, the essential purpose is to eradicate the corruption in this country. Those turbulent factors the future country does not need are naturally the first target of the night raid. Chapter 16:16. But, at this point, Dustless's voice fell silent. He was not afraid of Zank the Decapitator. That kid was just a clown. The reason why the Empire could collapse in the future was undoubtedly due to the efforts of Scarlet Eye and the others. However, there was almost no trace of them in the rise of the new country. It was really not worth it to sacrifice for them. It's good that you know the beheading Zank. He is different from other enemies. He is a Taigu user. In the duel between Taigu, one party will definitely die, so... Najenda's tone said until here and her voice stopped. She looked at Dustless with expectation. The meaning was self-evident. She probably expected Dustless to kill the beheading Zank alone. Unfortunately, his plan was doomed to fail. Najenda, next time when you discuss this kind of secret with me, you'd better look behind you. Pointing to the position of the bedroom door, Dustless spread his hands to show that it had nothing to do with him. You? Najenda turned her head and looked. It was Akim and others who were wearing pajamas. It is too dangerous for such a dangerous person to be solved by Dustless alone. Taigu users should be solved by us who have Taigu. Akim took a step forward and volunteered. Looking carefully, Akim and Mine as well as Leon and Gil, including Najenda, were all wearing pajamas. Their curvaceous figures were exposed, but at this moment, everyone was immersed in the beheading Zank incident and ignored the sneaky eyes. Lubbock was still sleeping. Bullet and Tatsumi went out to patrol. Such a beautiful scenery only benefited Dustless. Leave it to me, I also want to see the difference between the Taigu users. Stretching deeply, Dustless walked out of the quilt, opened the curtains and enjoyed the morning sun comfortably. He closed his eyes and his expression was a little lazy. He closed his eyes very lazily, murmuring and humming a song. He seemed to be in a good mood. The sky. Mine looked at Dustless with a little stupor. At present he was the opposite of the usual pompous Dustless. He looked very peaceful, warm and trustworthy. The rising sun shone on Dustless's face, which was particularly charming. I didn't expect this guy to have such a gentle side. Thinking of the experience of being hugged by Dustless yesterday, Mine couldn't help blushing. She looked around subconsciously, but found that Chi Tong and others were staring at Dustless. Somehow Mine was quite uncomfortable. Out of a woman's nature, Mine could feel the strange sight of Chi Tong and others. Dustless in this state was particularly lazy, revealing an indescribable unique temperament. Unlike his usual sloppy self, he was very confident. "No, let's go together this time." Mine took the lead in retorting with a tone that she would definitely kill Zhang. "Do as you like." Glancing at Mine in surprise, Dustless felt strange. He was not confident when Mine stared at him. After all, this guy still hated him a few days ago. Today her tone vaguely had a sense of protection. "Let's do it after dark." Seeing that everyone insisted, Najenda no longer stopped them. Everything was opposite. There were advantages and disadvantages. Killing Zhang in a group could also increase their experience in the future. After all, his death was a real Taiga user. They would meet this guy sooner or later. It was good to do an experiment in advance now. "But I have a suggestion." Mine suddenly spoke at this time and rationally suggested, "This is a battle between Taiga users. I suggest not to let Tatsumi participate in it. Killing Zhang is too difficult for him." "No problem, I will explain this to Tatsumi personally. Let's do it tonight, sneak into the capital." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A cold wind swept across the vast land. The empire at midnight was especially frightening. In some small alleys one could even hear hysterical curses. The capital at night was a hell in human skin. It seems that the boss failed. Tatsumi followed again. On the abandoned building, several black shadows were looming in the night sky. Only people with excellent eyesight could see these figures clearly with the faint moonlight. The person who complained about Tatsumi was Dustless. "What are you looking at? You can come without Taigu, why can't I come?" Tatsumi found Dustless's strange eyes, and suddenly shouted with dissatisfaction. "Whatever you want, don't blame us for not reminding you when you die," but, looking at the wanted order in his hand, Dustless was quite entangled and complained, "This must be Istetha's revenge on me deliberately. How can I be so ugly?" Just a few days ago Dustless was also inevitably wanted, and his wanted order was all over the street. Killing Zhang, the guy specially selects the person who is alone. Each of us is divided into two groups to walk on the street and attract that guy out. Mine and Hill were a group, Bullet and Tatsumi were a group, Lionel and Lubbock were a group. As for Dustless, this time he and Akame were a group to search for Killing Zhang. On the dark street, Dustless and Akame walked side by side. The bottomless street was particularly gloomy and terrifying. The deeper they went, the more obvious the screams were. "We don't seem to be the target." Dustless shook his head slightly and remembered Tatsumi, who was targeted in the original work. He grabbed Akame's small hand and rushed to the area where Tatsumi and Bullet were responsible. Being suddenly attacked by Dustless, Akame struggled for a while and gave up after she had no result. She let Dustless take her to the place. Chapter 16-17. On the other side, Bullet and Tatsumi were also struggling to track down Zhang. "Damn Dustless." Tatsumi cursed Dustless in his heart as he walked. Since meeting this guy, his life has fallen into the most miserable period. "Tatsumi, when performing a task you have to concentrate." Looking at the absent-minded Tatsumi, Bullet suddenly shouted, "Otherwise at your level, you will never surpass Dustless in your life." Bullet had to come up with his secret weapon. The words Dustless were spiritual food for Tatsumi. "So I still have a chance to surpass that guy?" Sure enough, after hearing the words Dustless, Tatsumi suddenly felt refreshed and asked with great expectation, "I also hope that I will surpass Dustless in the future." Unfortunately, speaking of this, Tatsumi's mouth twitched obviously. Thinking of Dustless's abnormal record like a deflated ball, he suddenly became very dispirited. "That guy is very strong, but he is just a human being. We are all human beings. If you can work hard, you may directly surpass him in the future." Bullet smiled and persuaded, but he smiled bitterly in his heart. Don't talk about Tatsumi, he can't do it himself. He said this just to cheer Tatsumi up. Happy. On a tall building, a strange man with a hideous face looked down at Bullet and the depressed Tatsumi. His evil face was directly distorted, revealing a thrilling killing intent. Since you are so depressed, I will send you to heaven. This person is Zank, and the person he is staring at is Tatsumi. Where did those two guys go? After running a few streets, Dustless did not find any trace of Tatsumi. In desperation, he could only spread out his observation haki. Why are you sure that Zank will look for Tatsumi? That guy is temperamental and his goal may be us. Akame blinked her beautiful eyes and asked. Because that guy looks like he died early. Dustless curled his lips and snorted disdainfully. This was the case in the original work. The poor Tatsumi was the first to be beheaded by Zank. If Akame hadn't arrived in time, that kid would have died long ago. Found it. After a while, Dustless's closed eyes suddenly opened, shooting out a burst of cold light. Is it Tatsumi? Scarlet Pupil asked expectantly. She was even more curious about Dustless's ability. This guy stood still, but he said that he found Tatsumi. After searching a few streets, he didn't find Tatsumi. No, Dustless shook his head. He shifted his gaze and stared at the dark street on the left. The silhouette with fiery eyes appeared on the surface of the water. We didn't find Tatsumi, but we did find Zank. No, rather than saying that we found him, it's better to say that this guy took the initiative to find us. Facing Zank's shocked gaze, Dustless appeared extremely calm. Akame's katana was unsheathed, like a knight guarding in front of Dustless. What a pity, Dustless sighed in his heart. He originally wanted to use Zank to kill Tatsumi, but he didn't expect this guy to find him and Scarlet Pupil in advance. According to Scarlet Pupil's temperament, she would never let this guy go so easily. Ta-ta-ta-ta. It was also at this time that the alley on the other side seemed to have noticed the abnormality here. A burst of hurried footsteps ran over without stopping. It's Tatsumi and Bullet? After figuring out who the newcomers were, Dustless frowned slightly, sighing inwardly that Zanka was so unlucky. He didn't encounter Tatsumi and Bullet, who were relatively weak, but he encountered himself and Akame instead. Happy. Zank's excited laughter came out of the beheading man's mouth. He muttered to himself, I'm so lucky to have met you too. Fortunately, I didn't sneak attack the combination just now, otherwise I would definitely be finished. Although that kid is very weak, that strong guy is unreliable. I'm not sure if I can win against him. Kid and strong guy? Scarlet Pupil raised her eyebrows slightly when she heard this. She glanced at Zank in surprise. He should be talking about Bullet and Tatsumi, right? Dustless said lightly and asked with great interest, You're called Zank, right? You're right, Bullet's strength is not something you can compete with. But now that you're treating me and Scarlet Pupil as prey, do you think we're easier to deal with than Bullet? Happy. Zank laughed when he heard this and said proudly, Yes, that strong guy is called Bullet. I felt a threat from that man, so I changed the prey to the two of you. How is it? My eyes are good, right? Happy. Who asked you two to be weaker than him? Is that so? Dustless glanced at him coldly when he heard this. Then light flickered on his right arm, and a slender golden greatsword was formed in an instant. Swish, swish, swish. Dustless turned into a golden light and instantly appeared in front of Zank. The great sword containing golden light had already swept toward Zank. Pucci. This guy didn't even have time to react before he was instantly crippled by Dustless, and one of his arms was easily cut off. How is this possible? I didn't see it at all. Zank looked at the figure in front of him in disbelief. His bulging eyeballs were terrifying, as if they were about to fall out. Your eyes are good, but Bullet's is stronger than yours. This is a fact. However, Scarlet Pupil and I, who are hiding our auras, are far more dangerous than Bullet and Tatsumi. Chapter 16-18. So fast. Pain was also stunned. She realized that when Dustless appeared, Zhangka's arm had already fallen. It was too fast, everything happened in a split second. In fact, if it weren't for the sound of Zank's arm falling off, Scarlet, I would still be in the dark and wouldn't have realized what had happened. How is this possible? Zank was dumbfounded. He even forgot about the pain of losing his arm. His eyes were fixed on the young silhouette in front of him. That thin body and pale face, It was obvious that he was a pampered young master. How could he possess such unprecedented strength? Damn it! Xianxia vomited blood. He thought that the hungry wolf found a fat sheep, but the cruel scene in front of him made him shocked to find that the weak sheep suddenly turned into a fierce tiger. Even if I die, I will drag you to the grave with me. Xianxia's eyes were fierce, and he quickly launched the ability of Taigu. Buzz! The Taigu tied to his forehead flashed with emerald light, and then Xianxia laughed arrogantly. I will win this duel. Xianxia's Taigu, omnipotent 5 vision, observer. A Taigu with 5 abilities. Insight, Farsight, X-ray, Future Vision, and Illusion. Insight could see through the other person's mind by observing the expression. Farsight could see things in the distance. X-ray could ignore obstacles to see the target. Future Vision could see the next situation through the subtle movements of muscles. Illusion could make the other person see illusions. Are you hallucinating now? I am the closest person to you. Xianxia laughed arrogantly in his heart. His other arm had already picked up the big sword cruelly. Dustless in front of him was motionless. His expression always remained cold. Deep in his calm eyes there were no waves. Go to hell. With an excited shout, Xianxia's right arm held the big sword and slashed down. Puchi. Blood splashed into the void and scattered all over the ground. It showed a blood-red plum blossom shape which was extremely strange. At the same time a huge body knelt on the ground. How is this possible? The injured person. Why is it me? I should be the closest person to you now. Zank the Decapitator roared at the sky. Looking closely, a scorched wound had appeared on his chest, and the fatal wound was rapidly devouring his life force. A demon like you would even lay hands on your own family? Xianxia, who noticed that his vitality was gone, was furious. His face was full of fear. In front of this guy he was trampled miserably like a little mouse. The so-called super weapon Taigu was useless. Too funny. Without even looking at Zank, Dustless's face only showed a touch of ridicule. The ignorant are fearless. Playing genjutsu in front of me who has Rinnegan Sharingan, I really don't understand where your confidence comes from. No matter what kind of illusion, the essence was a spiritual attack. For Dustless, who had a huge and invincible spiritual power, this little Taiga wanted to use illusion on him. It was completely humiliating. It's almost time to come. Glancing at the figures coming from the depths of the dark street, Dustless's cheeks flashed a strange smile. He leaned close to Xianxia's ear, smiled coldly and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Now I will let you see what a real genjutsu is. Use your last time to kill Tatsumi, my loyal soldier." Ordering me? Xianxia the Decapitator was furious when he heard that. Do you think I can be ordered casually? He opened his mouth, and when he was about to mock Dustless, a majestic spiritual power invaded Xianxia the Decapitator's mind. It was more than hundreds of times stronger than Taigu. Xianxia the Decapitator instantly became strange, and he turned to stare at the intruder who suddenly appeared. Xianxia the Decapitator suddenly stood up and went crazy. Regardless of the many wounds on his body, he crazily slashed at Tatsumi. Only careful people could find that the depths of this guy's eyes lost their luster. He was just a puppet, and the person who controlled him was Dustless. Why did this homicidal maniac suddenly attack me? Tatsumi looked at Xianxia the Decapitator, who was bloodthirsty, and he wanted to cry but had no tears. He just wanted to witness the scene of Dustless being brutally beaten. Who knew that Xianxia the Decapitator's brain suddenly went crazy, and he did not hesitate to kill him together. Playing. Tatsumi was not weak either. He immediately pulled out a big sword to fight back against Xianxia the Decapitator. Boom boom boom. However, Tatsumi was obviously not the opponent of Xianxia the Decapitator. The two sides just met face to face. Tatsumi was blown dozens of meters away by the force from the giant sword, and he spat out blood. Xianxia the Decapitator chased after him. When he was about to kill him completely, a shadow in armor fell from the sky, and the cold light that followed cut Xianxia the Decapitator's throat. Puchi. The cold light flashed fiercely, smashed Xianxia the Decapitator in one fell swoop, and his head was smashed into pieces. The sky even had a horrible bloody rain full of the smell of blood. Looking up, it was Tatsumi's backer, Bullet. This guy really likes to meddle in other people's business. Originally I was not interested in you, but if you want to die, Then you can't blame me for being ruthless. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly, staring at the majestic Bullet, and a piercing chill flashed across his cheeks. He just wanted to kill Tatsumi with a borrowed knife. If Bullet meddled in other people's business, he could only kill him as well. It's good that everyone is fine. Akane breathed a sigh of relief. Killing Xianxia the Decapitator so easily was beyond her expectations. There was no such thing as a stalemate. Dustless's attack was a one-sided crushing and annihilation. Chapter 16-19. Looking at Tatsumi, who was safe and sound, Dustless was quite upset. This guy's protagonist aura made him ridiculously lucky. Every time there was a savior who helped him. In this case, then he could only get rid of this savior, Bullet. You are really powerful, Dustless. Bullet liberated the armor and looked at the wound on Zhang's abdomen. Dustless almost crushed his internal organs with one sword, and all the internal organs were burned by the light sword, and the smell of the strange barbecue filled the air. Is this thing a taigu? Looking at the emerald ornaments scattered on the ground, Tatsumi excitedly picked them up and put them on his hand. How about I use this thing? It's not up to you to decide. Glancing at Tatsumi coldly, Dustless's palm broke out a strong gravitational force. The taigu in Tatsumi's hand suddenly fell into the hands of Dustless, and he said without hesitation, the ownership of this thing can only be decided by the boss. Tatsumi was angry when he heard the words. He wanted to beat Dustless, but he retracted his hand. The strength of this guy was too terrifying. 100 or even 1,000 of him were not his opponents. The two sides were completely incomparable. At the same time, Gil and Mine also heard the news and came to look at the body on the ground. The two women were relieved, and then everyone returned to the base after a few words. Tatsumi, try it first. Inside the base of the night raid, the voice of the boss Najenda sounded. Thank you, boss, I will not let you down. Tatsumi excitedly took over the taigu that was handed over. This was the relic of Zhang. Tatsumi, you have to believe in your ability. Tatsumi's boss, Bullet, encouraged loudly. I will, brother. Tatsumi heard the words and nodded excitedly. He immediately learned the appearance of Zhang and put the taigu on his head. He stared at Bullet in front of him, and then he was in a trance. This is... After a while, Bullet's naked appearance came into his eyes. What did you see? Mine, Leonette, and others asked. Hee. Dustless smirked and deliberately raised his voice. I heard the guy Zhang said that his taigu has the ability of 5 vision, that is, insight, telescopic, clairvoyant, future vision, and illusion. Tatsumi is so fascinated he probably saw Bullet's naked body. Saliva is flowing out. Sure enough, Tatsumi and Bullet are both gay. No wonder you two get along so well. Poochie. Tatsumi turned his head angrily when he heard the words. However, before he turned his head, he was sent flying with a punch. Bang bang bang. Leonette, who was straightforward, gave Tatsumi a few punches without hesitation, and then forcibly took away Tatsumi's taigu and said to the boss directly, such obscene props should not appear inside the night raid. Not bad. Chi Tong, Mine, and others nodded and agreed with Leonie's suggestion. What would happen if this thing fell into the hands of a man with bad intentions? Since this is the case, give it to the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. The boss Najenda thought deeply and nodded. It was too dangerous to leave this strange taigu in the night raid, and it was not useful. Recently, there are many corrupt officials who have no conscience. You continue to go to the imperial capital to perform the task. You must eliminate the root of the problem. Najenda said with a murderous tone. This bastard is really hateful. I finally got a taigu and it disappeared because of Dustless. Damn it, Wuxia couldn't have been sent down by the heavens to deliberately go against me, right? Tatsumi had a sad expression, not to mention that he was punched by Leonette for a few times. Even the taigu that was eager to see through also said goodbye to him. Tatsumi's heart was broken into ice. In the magnificent palace. General Esteth, you have made a contribution to defeat the alien race, and you are rewarded with thousands of gold. Sitting on the dragon throne made of gold, the young Emperor Esteth said. Thank you, Your Majesty, please give these things to my subordinates. Esteth nodded. Although this little guy was the emperor, she did not respect him at all. After all, he was just a plaything of the Minister Ernest. He was just a puppet prop used to control the empire. General, what other wishes do you have? It seemed that she felt sorry for Esteth, The young emperor said generously, "Everything you want will be realized. Your Majesty is wise." A tall and strong man walked out from the back of the emperor's dragon throne, holding a piece of meat in his hand and biting it. "All the wishes of General Isteth will be realized. Do you have other wishes?" Isteth bowed her head and thought for a moment. She suddenly remembered the outline of Dustless in her mind. In the past, Isteth had no goals in life because she was invincible in the world. Now Dustless suddenly rose. Isteth was full of expectations for the future. "I have 3 wishes at present. The first is to catch Dustless, the bastard boy." Thinking of Dustless's wicked smile, Isteth immediately gnashed her teeth and immediately continued. "As for the next 2 wishes, I hope to form a special team to deal with the night attack. The other wish is to fall in love, and there is already a suitable candidate." Fall in love. Minister Ernest and the Emperor looked at each other and they were both shocked. After dozens of seconds they stared at Isteth tightly. General Isteth actually wants to fall in love, and there is a suitable candidate. Who is so lucky to get the general's pity? Although Minister Ernest said so, in his heart he felt sorry for the person Isteth liked. Chapter 16:20. Who is it? Isteth was in a trance when she heard the words and immediately explained, "Although there is a gap between that guy and the person I like, he is also the closest." Who on earth is so powerful? The young emperor was also interested. The person who could make Isteth favor, the whole world's population would be curious about him. "I have said it before." Isteth said meaningfully, "That guy is very strong and he is not from the imperial capital like me. He has a big goal and is ambitious at the same time. Although he is not suitable in some other aspects, it doesn't matter. It is God's blessing that I can find that guy." Isteth saw through it quite clearly. There was no perfect human being in this world, and everything could not be changed according to one's own logical thinking. "You said it?" Minister Ornat was also surprised when he heard this. After recalling what Isteth said, he said loudly, "Is it that Dustless? That guy is a member of the night raid." The young emperor frowned. However, Isteth did not pay attention to him. Her eyes just looked at the big guy next to him. Minister Ornat was the emperor's father. He was more like a father than a father. "Yes, it is him." Isteth nodded and immediately said without concealing, "However, I just intend to raise that guy as a pet. Dustless left a deep impression on me. It is difficult to forget him. That guy humiliated me again and again. I must catch him back and feed him." Since she was young, Isteth had always put a collar on others. Only last time was an exception. Not to mention that she suffered a loss in the hands of Dustless, she was also put on a collar by him. It was unbearable. Isteth was always thinking about revenge against Dustless. "I see." Minister Ornat was surprised after hearing it, and he was too lazy to continue talking nonsense with Isteth. Once this woman decided on something, no one could pull her back. "Then congratulations to the general for your success." Minister Ornat knew that his denial could not change the will of Isteth. In this case, it was better to sell a favor to Isteth so that the alliance between them could be more consolidated. "Then we must capture that guy." The young emperor also agreed. Since the honorable father had spoken as a good son, he naturally had to agree to it as well. Although the two of them were not related by blood, there was no doubt that Osnat's relationship with the emperor was even stronger than that of a father. The emperor would agree to all of Osnat's conditions. In another direction. Pucci. In the pitch-black room, a large amount of blood suddenly appeared in the air and covered the floor. Looking around, the entire room was filled with corpses. They had all been killed in an extremely cruel manner. They had all been cut in half at the waist. This weapon is really scary. Dustless quietly looked at the scissors in Hill's hand and couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. No matter who it was, if they were hit by this thing they could end up being cut in half. This group of people had all died in such a miserable way. Retreat, Mine and Hill. Glancing at the pink-haired girl, Dustless took the lead to leave the smoky room. Corpses had been piled up everywhere, and they were all killed mercilessly by Dustless and others. This guy dares to order us to. This newcomer is too arrogant. He has no rules at all. Facing us two veterans, he should try to please us. Mine hummed and said, deliberately raising her voice to let Dustless hear. Dustless walked away. Even if he heard it, he turned a deaf ear to Mine's complaints. After joining the night raid for so many days, He had heard her complaints and had become immune. Is that so? Hill's naturally dull little face showed a meaningful smile. Then you didn't refuse his order. Hill, you figure out your position for me. The two of us are good teammates in the same trench. Mine blushed after being stunned for a moment. Unconsciously, her teammates were all turned against her. Whiz whiz whiz. Just at this time, Dustless suddenly stopped and looked at the forest on the left side with a cold face. There was a cold gaze looking at them. Is there an enemy? Hill and Mine made a fighting posture. They looked in the direction of Dustless, and a girl in the Special Zone's guard uniform came into view. It's really her. Seeing this person appear, Dustless was not surprised. What should come will come. In the original work, Hill was killed by this guy ruthlessly. I spend a lot of time waiting every day and finally you are here. Night raid. After the voice fell, the good-looking girl immediately turned into an evil spirit. Her distorted face was full of horror and killing intent. A surging chill rushed to Dustless and others. This person was a member of the Special Zone's guard, Selu Ubietas. You are a group of evil people, you must be punished with justice. Selu Ubietas came out of the dark woods with a white puppy. Dustless knew that it was the Taigu of Selu Ubietas, the demon beast transformed into 100-armed giant, the dog that had been called Xiaoka. It looked harmless on the surface, but it was actually a very ferocious existence. Is this woman's head broken? The situation is not clear. The current situation is 3v1. She has no chance to win. Chapter 1621. Is there something wrong with this woman's head? She hasn't figured out the situation. The current situation is 3v1, she has no chance to win. Mine sneered coldly. This stupid woman didn't even seem to figure out the basic situation. The people who were at an absolute disadvantage were not her and Hill, but Seleucid Ubiquitas. Hee. Seleucid Ubiquitas heard the words and slightly raised his mouth, revealing a ferocious arc. There is no weakness or advantage in punishing evil, I just need to annihilate all of you. Seleucid Ubiquitas' mouth opened, a dark muzzle was exposed and a dazzling bullet was shot from the front. Bang bang bang. Several shots were shot in succession. The dense fire was shot to Dustless and other two people. Phew phew phew. Hill and Mine, who realized the danger, retreated, and only Dustless was like a stone, standing still as if it had nothing to do with him. Go to hell. Seleucid Ubiquitas felt pity. Although he was a little disappointed that two people ran away, it was not bad to kill one of the members of the night raid. Bang bang bang. Dustless's body was penetrated by the bullets. There were more than a dozen holes. His heart was destroyed. He would definitely die. Idiot, why don't you dodge? Mine saw the wounds on Dustless's body. Her tone suddenly increased several times, and the Taigu in her hand shone with a huge dazzling light of destruction. Boom boom boom. A ray of destructive light shot out. It was several times stronger than usual. Dustless's death was a big blow to Mine. After all, Dustless had saved her. Phew phew phew. The thick light came to him. Seleucid Ubiquitas was shocked. He quickly said to his Taigu, "Little Ku, block it for me." Ow 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 ow. A strange sound came out from the mouth of this strange creature. Then his body became countless times bigger, revealing his horrible and gloomy appearance. He blocked in front of Seleucid Ubiquitas like a meat shield. Boom boom boom. However, Mine, who was angry, was also much more powerful. She instantly destroyed this biotype Taigu. Puchi. There was a huge hole in Coco's abdomen. Even her organs had been completely crushed. The hole was large enough for a person to walk through. Little Ku, you bastard, how dare you? Selu Ubiquita's face was distorted even more. The black hole in her mouth was exposed again, and she unceremoniously shot a bullet at Mine. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The dense firepower net of bullets came head-on, and there was no way to escape. Mine was going to be shot into a sieve. Damn it. Mine scolded secretly. She was sweating. She couldn't escape from both sides. There was no shelter around her. She was about to be shot. Am I going to die? Mine's face was full of unwillingness. She was not afraid of death, but if she could, Mine hoped to drag Cyril Ubiquitas to be buried with her. After all, Dustless had helped her and saved her life. If she couldn't help him take revenge, she would have no face to meet Dustless in the underworld. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this time, a black shadow stood in front of Mine without hesitation, protecting her like a shield. Gil. Staring at the purple girl in front of her, Mine was very moved. Clang 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 clang. Gil held the scissor-shaped taigu and blocked it in front of her. All the bullets fell on the taigu. Because Gil's taigu was extremely hard, it could be used as a shield. Damn it. Celya Ubiquitas saw the situation and scolded. Looking at the two people who were close, she felt extremely unlucky. After all, she almost killed Mine. At the same time, she hated Gil. Since you like to meddle in other people's business, go to hell. Celya Ubiquitas screamed with a distorted face. She opened her mouth and shot countless bullets at the same time. Bang bang bang. The result was the same as before. The bullet attack was blocked. Your good luck seems to be used up. I am going to avenge that guy now. Mine stepped forward. The muzzle of the taigu pumpkin had been aimed at Celya Ubiquitas. Ha! When Celya Ubiquitas saw this, he revealed a devilish smile and said coldly, "Before that, please take a look behind the two of you." Gil and Mine were both stunned. They turned their heads at the same time. A black shadow was staring at them with murderous intent. Ow 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 ow. Celya Ubiquitas' taigu roared like a beast. Its body became dozens of times bigger. Then his strong and powerful big hand caught Mine and Gil instantly. Damn it. All this happened so suddenly that Gil and Mine were still in a daze. When they turned around, Taigu, who had become bigger, had already caught the two. Ha! I finally succeeded. Justice triumphed over evil. The unscrupulous laughter lingered in the black night sky and did not disappear for a long time. Celya Ubiquitas' cheeks raised a smile of victory. It was a great victory to kill 3 members of the night raid. Master, I finally avenged you. I successfully killed 3 members of the night raid. Damn it, Celya Ubiquitas is so despicable and insidious. He deliberately let the biotype Taigu pretend to be dead. In fact, he was looking for opportunities to attack us. Damn it, we were fooled. Mine struggled hard but found that it did not work at all. The strength of the Taigu was too strong. Gil could not escape, let alone Mine, who was weaker. The two looked pale for a while. Taigu, crush these 2 evil criminals for me. Chapter 1622. The biotype Taigu increased its strength. Mine and Gil immediately screamed in pain. The two were sweating and the pain made their faces as pale as paper. Crush them to avenge the master. Celya Ubiquitas, whose cheeks were distorted, roared like a crazy ghost. A few days ago, the night attack assassinated her master, Captain Oka of the Special Zones Police Force. Therefore, Celya Ubiquitas hated the night attack. She could not wait to drink their blood and swallow their bones. She came out every night, and today she finally encountered the night attack. Oh. The biotype Taigu nodded slightly after receiving the order, then it was angry and increased the power output. When it was about to completely crush the 2 women, a sharp light broke the situation. Puchi. The light penetrated the arms of the biotype Taigu. 2 crisp sounds were heard in succession. Coco's arms fell. Gil and Mine were able to escape from the cage and they were relaxed. Who dares to stop the justice from defeating the evil? Unforgivable. When he saw this, Celya Ubiquitas flew into a rage, and his sharp tone became several times louder. He was like a malicious spirit that had come to claim his life, and his scarlet eye sockets were filled with a bloody glow. The veins of blood that were like spiderwebs spread throughout his entire eye sockets, and his entire body was filled with a raging and ominous aura. Everyone's gaze swept over. Under the night sky, that faintly discernible thin figure was exceptionally conspicuous. You're dustless. Mine and Gil were even more anxious. They were grateful to the savior, but when they saw the lazy face, the 2 women were stunned. Don't show such an unexpected expression. This is the imperial capital and we are attacking at night. The people who can save you are naturally our own people. Will those empire soldiers be kind enough to save you too? Dustless asked calmly as if nothing happened, and at the same time he glanced at the bloody biotype Taigu Coco and whispered, "It is just a tool, but it can also regenerate quickly and even pretend to be dead. It is very capable and it is so humane." On the surface, Dustless was praising, but in fact his tone was as cold as frost, and he flicked a light from his finger and it went straight to the biotype Taigu. Laser. A dazzling light shot out and flew to Coco's head. Boom boom boom. In an instant the night sky shone brightly. Following that, a bright flame soared into the sky. Coco's head was instantly destroyed, charred by the scorching wave of fire. You bastard! Selly Ubiquitas's eyes were about to burst. Originally he hated Dustless to the bone. According to the news from his death, he was the culprit who killed Oka. Now he also crushed her Taigu. The anger in her heart had already reached an intolerable level. This guy has already been twisted. There's no saving him. Dustless's face was as cold as ice as his fingertips glowed with a high-density light. His finger was aimed at the head of Selly Ubiquitas. Although this guy looked pretty good, it did not mean that Dustless would be compassionate. Dustless was not a man who could not move when he saw a beauty. It was even more impossible for him to be merciful to Selly Ubiquitas. This kind of person was brainwashed and her mind was poisoned. Only by sending her to heaven could she be saved. Go to hell, remember, the person who killed you is called Dustless. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After the voice fell, Dustless flicked a dazzling light from his finger. I won't be killed so easily, and even if I die I will drag you, this group of evil criminals, to be buried with me. You evil people all deserve to die. Selly Ubiquitas roared like a madman. He hated Dustless and the others to the core. His resentment had reached an unbelievable level. He couldn't wait to drag Dustless and the others down to hell. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the face of the light, Selly Ubiquita's reaction was very agile. She actually came over miraculously and opened her mouth to shoot a lot of bullets. Bang bang bang. Dustless's body was penetrated again, but nothing happened. The damaged wound was quickly repaired by the ability of the glinting fruit. Damn it. Why does justice lose to this evil person? Clenching her fists, Selly Ubiquitas was unwilling to give up. Why? This kind of shallow reason seems to be very simple. Slowly walking towards Selly Ubiquitas, looking down at the frustrated girl, Dustless said coldly, because your justice is not as strong as my strength. The so-called justice is determined by the winner, so I am the winner, I am the justice. Instead you are an evil person. Then I will destroy you with brute force. I don't care so much, Xiaoka, use that trick. Selly Ubiquitas glanced at the biotype Taigu Xiaoka with madness in his eyes. His words were determined to destroy everything. You still have tricks. Faint ripples appeared in the calm eyes. Dustless whispered, such a positive tone, you seem to have the despair of death, which slightly makes me look at you differently. Ao. After receiving Sellyu's order, the biotype Taigu Xiaoka immediately took the lead. Then he seemed to have taken hormones. His body expanded several times in an instant, and his white body also changed greatly. Instead it was replaced by blood-black hair, and the eyeballs that were as big as copper were also full of rage. Xiaoka's strength will increase after using fury, this time you. Selyu regained her confidence and said proudly to Dustless, but she did not know that this guy had disappeared. You're just so. The next moment, when Dustless appeared again, his feet stepped on Xiaoka's head. Chapter 1623. What a fast speed. Gil and Mine looked at each other, their expressions were a little numb. It was not that they had never seen the market, but Dustless was too fast and he disappeared in a flash. When he appeared again, he had already appeared on the head of the biological dog-type Taigu. Dustless, this guy. I thought he was dead just now and I was sad for him once. Now it seems that he is still alive. I really don't deserve it. Mine squeezed out the crystal water stains from the corner of her eyes, and she was about to cry. Although she was dissatisfied with Dustless on the mouth, her expression was smiling. Obviously she did not mean what she said. Xiaoka, crush him for me. Being provoked by an evil person again and again, Seleucid Ubiquitas, who could not bear it, had a face as black as coal, and he could not help but completely explode. Ao. The violent dog-type Taigu Xiaoka roared, looking up at Dustless on the head, and grabbed him with his big hand. Poochie. The dog-type Taigu Xiaoka once again grabbed the body of Dustless, but before he had time to be happy, he suddenly found that the texture he caught was not right. It was good that he caught Dustless, but it was no different from catching the air. His body was very ethereal and there was no substance. Buzz buzz buzz. A large number of dense flashes were condensed at the foot again. Dustless glanced at the dog-type Taigu Xiaoka coldly, and then the small foot that was raised high did not hesitate to fall. Speed is power. Have you been kicked by the speed of light? Speed of light kick. The shining big foot that was like a layer of gold fell on the head of the dog-type Taigu Xiaoka mercilessly. His head suddenly sunk. Especially the most terrible place of the eyes, it left a burning footprint directly. Boom boom boom. The dog-type creature Taigu Xiaoka was kicked away by Dustless for dozens of meters away in a moment, The body smashed several big trees in succession, even the ground was pulled out of a long ditch. Every part of his body was badly mutilated. Oao. Oao. Boyo. Although he was out of breath, the dog-type Taigu Xiaoka still stood up tenaciously, the bloody eyes like a meatball stared at Silver without slowing down. It's useless. Seeing that Coco was still standing up, Celia Ubiquitas heaved a sigh of relief. The power of that kick just now was really shocking. She even suspected that it could destroy a mountain with one kick. The biological Taigu can be restored by any attack. After being trampled on a few times, Sailor Ubiquita's arrogance and confidence returned to normal. Tisk tisk. You can recover from any attack. I advise you to speak less of such arrogant and ignorant words in the future. It will only make you seem more ignorant. Dustless retorted with a sneer. What do you mean? Celia Ubiquitas was stunned. She stared at Dustless unhappily. She understood that there was a hidden meaning in his words. To put it simply, this dog-shaped Taigu is still alive. It is completely my kindness. After all, I am also a sensitive person. You have a deep relationship with this dog. It would be too heartless to kill it instantly. You can't talk about the old days. I am not the kind of heartless man. Dustless continued to explain casually. That's why I let the two of you fight for a while longer and communicate with each other before you die. You should thank me for being merciful. Dustless said frankly, not caring about the bulging blue veins on Cyril Ubiquitas's forehead. Poochie. Gil and Mine couldn't help but spurt out their saliva. They stared at Dustless gloomily. This guy was too annoying. The meaning of these words was that if you could still breathe, you should thank me for not killing you. Little dog, tear him up for me. Celia Ubiquitas ordered with a green face. If she listened to Dustless's nonsense, she would be annoyed to death. Ow 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 ow. The dog-shaped Taigu that was accused shook all over. It was like a whistling hurricane. Its speed was so fast that it was difficult to catch it with human eyes. It's so fast. Mine and Gil whispered in shock. Such a huge body, it moved so fast that they could not see it at all. This was also the fundamental reason why they were caught just now. It's so slow. This fleeting speed fell into the eyes of Dustless, but it was as slow as a turtle crawling. There was no highlight. Phew phew phew. Suddenly there was a fierce hurricane behind him. Dustless did not even turn his head. He did not need to look to know that it was the dog-shaped Taigu. Its movement was too big, it was difficult to not find it. To assassinate a person, first of all, it must be done quietly. Like this, the evil spirit was all over the sky, the movement was too fierce. It could easily locate the position of the enemy. Shinra Tensei. His closed eyes abruptly opened, and an incomparably violent repulsive force erupted out. Kakaka. Because it was too close to Dustless, the dog-shaped Taigu was also affected, but its body was not bounced off, but it was directly crushed by the violent repulsion. One of the glass-like spheres was also crushed. Isn't this a thorough death? The core is also destroyed. The dog will definitely die. Taking a glance at Cyril Ubiquitas, Dustless asked indifferently, You should also sleep forever. Celia Ubiquitas's heart was completely distorted. Her whole body was transformed into a weapon. It was impossible to tame her. In this case, he could only destroy her ruthlessly. Tsukuyami. Dustless glanced at Celia Ubiquitas gently. The majestic spiritual power invaded her mind. He did not torture her, he just destroyed her nervous system and annihilated it instantly. Celia Ubiquitas's eyes were empty, and she immediately looked at the deep void with infatuation. Then she left the world unwillingly with relief. Chapter 1624. Is that Taiga dog finished? What a pity. Mine and Gil sighed. In addition to the necessary task of assassination, the night raid also had the secondary job of collecting Taigu. The Taigu that killed Zank a while ago was sent to the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. The Taigu of Celia Ubiquitas did not even leave the body, and there was only a large pool of blood on the ground. It's good that you are fine. Hill revealed a naturally silly smile. His gaze when looking at Dustless had an additional hint of strangeness. The targets that should be eliminated have been eliminated, let's retreat. Stretching out, Dustless yawned and took the lead to disappear into the darkness. You don't have the demeanor of a peerless master at all. Mine shook her head and immediately glanced at Hill. She just caught the obscure expression. Although she didn't know what it meant, Mine didn't know why she felt uncomfortable in her heart. At the moment in the palace in another place. 3 beasts, I have a new task for you. On the ground covered with green grass, Isteth stared at the 3 people who were half kneeling in front of her and explained, recently many people are rebelling against the minister. You go to pretend to be the night raid and kill all the civil officials who talk nonsense. Understood, Lady Isteth. The 3 people all answered respectfully. Well, you can go back. Isteth waved her white and tender arms and turned her head with a little tiredness. Recently, she had been crazily training herself, and the time to sleep could be counted with fingers. But, Lady Isteth. At this time Leva, one of the 3 beasts, suddenly said, Lady Isteth, are you going to deal with Dustless? We can finally get rid of the shame. Not only Leva was very excited, but the rest of Nu and Daoist were also very excited. After all, Dustless had seriously destroyed their physical and mental health, and they had not recovered until now. Very good, I can feel your high will. Isteth smiled and nodded, and immediately her eyes dimmed. However, let's forget about Dustless for the time being. If we go to trouble him, the people who will be killed should be us. Isteth remembered the battle with Dustless and whispered, but it is also because of that guy my strength has improved a lot now, and the old stubborn guy also promised to deal with him with me. Old stubborn guy? Leva and the other 2 were all stunned. Soon after, they said in surprise in unison, could it be the other strongest general of the Empire, General Bude? If he is willing to join forces with Isteth, it will be easy to take down Dustless. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Those people in the imperial capital have been very busy recently. At the base of the night raid, the boss Najenda carefully read the information sent, frowning deeply. Her expression was very cautious and serious and even clearly worried. As for the other members of the night raid, they were eating breakfast. Does Isteth want to force us to come out and kill us all? After a while, boss Najenda put out the cigarette in her hand, showing a headache. Recently, many civil officials of the Empire have been killed. When they left the night raid leaflets and wanted to pour dirty water on us. Dustless recalled the incident while eating breakfast, and at the same time he did not forget to give a thumbs up to Scarlet Eye. This guy was really good at cooking meat. It must be Isteth's doing. She wants to force us out and kill us in one fell swoop. Leonine nodded in agreement while wolfing down the food. But Dustless stared at Tatsumi and Bullet, who were still training outside the window, with a meaningful smile at the corner of his mouth, and a raging light flashed in the depths of his eyes. I can take this opportunity to kill Bullet, so that this guy won't meddle in other people's business and hinder me every time. When he planned to kill Tatsumi a few times, Bullet, who was in the way, often came out to mess things up. He could use Isteth's hands to kill this stinky bug. We should stop Isteth immediately during the night raid. Otherwise, more and more civil officials will be killed by her. Those civil officials with conscience are the elites of the country in the future. They must not be lost. Dustless suddenly stood up and said loudly in an impassioned tone. However, when Dustless's words fell, the scene was silent and they all looked at him. Dustless, are you sick? Scarlet Eye couldn't help but say anxiously, if you are sick, you should give up this mission. Everyone will give you more rewards. You usually don't care about those civil officials. Why are you so concerned about this incident? He must be sick. Blinking her eyes, Scarlet Eye stared at Dustless with concern. At the same time, she put her forehead on Dustless's forehead. After feeling that his body temperature was normal, she strangely said to herself, it seems that you don't have a fever. Ahem. It's my responsibility to protect those civil officials. Dustless patted his chest awkwardly. Scarlet Eye probably thought that his brain was damaged. Dustless usually avoided when he heard about protecting those civil officials. He often pretended to be sick or refused for various reasons. This time he took the initiative to attack, which really made the people of the night raid feel puzzled. I can't say that I intend to use this opportunity to kill Bullet. Dustless was secretly depressed by the strange eyes of the crowd. He simply chose to learn from Leonette and eat, ignoring the strange eyes of others. Chapter 1625. For the strange eyes of several people, Dustless simply ignored them, and then began to plan how to kill Tatsumi and Bullet. These 2 bugs were wandering around all day, which was really disgusting. Don't talk about those boring trifles, there is a big event that needs to be dealt with now. Although the boss agenda was also quite strange, she did not ask much. Although everyone was a killer and had to obey her orders on the surface, Everyone had their own privacy and there was no need to delve into it. According to the latest intelligence, Isteth must have a new plan to attack us at night. Najenda sighed gloomily, knowing that this was Isteth's conspiracy, but she still got involved. This feeling was particularly uncomfortable. Recently there is a cruise ship with civil servants which is also the target of Isteth. There are many civil servants with conscience on the cruise ship, and there are also enemies of Minister Ernest. It is estimated that Isteth will not let go of the target easily, so this mission let me, Tatsumi and Bullet carry it out together. Before the boss Najenda finished speaking, Dustless directly interrupted her speech. 3 people. Najenda frowned slightly with a little hesitation and finally decided, Isteth is aggressive and she will not stop until she achieves her goal. Maybe she will send a lot of masters to sneak in. You 3 are too few, so this mission will be completed by Tatsumi and Bullet, Dustless and Akame. Why does Akame participate in this kind of thing every time? Dustless was secretly depressed. According to the nature of Akame, would she let him kill Bullet? The answer was definitely impossible. Although he had a good relationship with Akame, Akame valued the so-called companions very much, and would never allow Dustless to kill the so-called companions. Let's wait and see. Looking up, he stared at Bullet and Tatsumi, who were sweating outside the window. He saw that the 2 were talking and laughing happily, and the most ridiculous thing was that Bullet showed his love to Tatsumi from time to time. Dustless felt goosebumps all over his body. Originally, this matter has nothing to do with you, but you have to participate in it. You can't blame me for being ruthless, Bulla. Dustless muttered in his heart. He was only targeting Tatsumi, but Bulla and Tatsumi had a good relationship and often hindered Dustless, so he could only kill this eyesore. By the way, when you sneak onto the cruise ship, make sure to dress up a little. The boss Najenda reminded, whether it was Dustless, Akame, Tatsumi or Bullet, the 4 of them were wanted by the whole city. Dressing up could save unnecessary trouble. On the sparkling surface of the sea, a huge cruise ship was slowly moving forward. Celebrities from all over the world were gathered on the ship. At first glance there were prominent figures everywhere. This is the first time I've dressed up like this. On the cruise ship where people from all over the world gathered, Dustless and Akame stood together. The 2 of them were dressed very differently from before. They wore matching couple outfits. Wuxian was wearing a black tuxedo. His slightly messy long hair was specially cut short this time. His deep eyes were as dazzling as the bright moon. They were embedded in his eye sockets and shone brightly. Dustless also respected Najenda's script and tried his best to act as Akame's husband. He had an elegant smile on his face. When he met people who passed by him, he would show a charming smile. Ridiculous, why can Dustless and Akame pretend to be husband and wife and sneak onto the ship, but I have to be responsible for doing odd jobs? Damn, it's really a bad year. Tatsumi, who was wiping the table in the distance, was like a jealous jar that had been knocked over, and he was complaining to himself. Don't be discouraged, Tatsumi. At this time a stranger patted Tatsumi's shoulder and he was shocked. Tatsumi looked around but there was no one around. Is it my illusion? After looking around twice, Tatsumi retracted his gaze. Stupid Tatsumi, look clearly, it's me, Bullet. He patted Tatsumi's shoulder again and the mysterious voice sounded again. Brother? Tatsumi was stunned when he heard the words and he looked around with his eyes wide open. Don't look with your eyes, feel with your heart. This is one of the abilities of my ghost haunting. It can be transparent. Bullet explained in a low voice. Is this the Taigu? It's also powerful. Tatsumi suddenly showed an envious expression when he heard the words. Such a powerful ability was rare in the world. Tatsumi saw it and remembered it in his mind. By the way, when Dustless and Akame sneaked onto the ship, why didn't anyone check them? When I just said that I was a handyman, I went through a lot of interrogation. Tatsumi complained with dissatisfaction with an unlucky expression. Looking at Akame and Dustless who were dancing in the distance, he was envious and jealous. They were all members of the night raid, why was the gap so big? Dustless and Akame pretended to be husband and wife, while Tatsumi miserably pretended to be a cook and a handyman to sneak in. They look like husband and wife. Leaning against the cabin, he looked straight at Wu Qin and Qi Tong. Wu Qin was elegant and graceful, while Qi Tong had dressed up meticulously. Her appearance was even more soul-stirring. Her skin was fair and beautiful, and her facial features were flawless, like a masterpiece carved by the heavens. The two of them displayed their superb acting skills, and the people around them were less wary of them. Damn it. I'm always the one who gets into trouble. Why do I have to team up with my brother? He's gay. Looking at Bullet, who stared at himself affectionately, Tatsumi almost vomited blood. People were really annoying. Chapter 1626. Bullet's eyes were deep and bright, filled with an invisible flame. He stared at the short Tatsumi, and Bullet's eyes were enough to melt him easily. Seeing this, Tatsumi's heart beat faster and he looked up at Bullet in horror. He used to think that Dustless was dangerous, but compared with Bullet, Dustless was too cute and kind in some aspects. A long and noble tune rang out in the air. Following that, the previously bustling ship instantly became abnormally noisy and filled with terrified voices. Damn, my head hurts, what's going on? My head hurts too. Damn it, could it be Minister Ernest's subordinate? Everyone cover your ears quickly, don't listen to this melody. The tourists on the ship suddenly screamed in horror. The screams were full of endless pain, like headless flies bumping around. Everyone showed a painful expression and was very sad. Plop. Some people couldn't resist the pain, and they directly jumped into the water and chose to kill themselves. At the same time, on the other side, Chi-Tong and Dustless also deliberately fainted on the ground. Chi-Tong's whole body was tightly pressed on Dustless. Because of the distance, Dustless inevitably touched some places that should not be touched, and so did Chi-Tong. It's just acting, you don't have to be so professional. Dustless opened his eyes, and half of Chi-Tong's beautiful face was directly pressed on Dustless's neck, and he could feel the hot touch. Don't talk, continue to pretend to be unconscious, and when those people come out we will ambush them unexpectedly. Chi-Tong opened her eyes and glanced at Dustless, then closed them again, and then pretended to be dead on Dustless's neck and did not move, which was very professional. It's a waste of a professional like you to not make movies in this world. Dustless stared at Chi-Tong dumbfounded. Although this girl said it calmly and simply, her tone seemed that she did not care about being taken advantage of by Dustless at all. However, because Chi-Tong's whole body was pressed on him, Dustless could still feel Chi-Tong's accelerated heartbeat, and in fact he was also very nervous. What a pity. It was undeniable that Scarlet Eye's plan wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. He deliberately pretended to be unconscious and waited for the enemy to relax before dealing a fatal blow. However, in this world, no matter what time it was, there would always be some troublemakers. Damn it, what's going on? Where did this melody come from? It's so powerful that it's swaying when it walks. Tatsumi covered his head. His head was also painful, as if it was being torn apart. He was dizzy and walked around like a dizzy duck. He couldn't even distinguish the most basic directions. There's actually someone who can persevere. Not bad. I thought that all the people on this ship would be wiped out. I didn't expect that there would be a fish that escaped the net. Not bad. However, it is also because you are extraordinary that it shows that you are not simple. Kid, you should be the one who attacked at night. The three beastmen walked out of the cabin. The one who spoke was one of the three beastmen, the former General Riva. But now he had become Istetha's lackey. Did the three of you do it? The melody stopped. Tatsumi looked at the three people in front of him with a pale face. His shining eyes were dotted with stars. Do you still have the strength to talk? It's really extraordinary. One of the three beastmen, the blonde kid, was called Nyo. She looked at the unyielding Tatsumi with surprise and said, "You can still burst out with such a strong will. You are definitely not an ordinary human. There is no doubt that you are a member of the night raid. With the existence of Tatsumi, I know that your plan will fail." Dustless ridiculed Scarlet Eye with a smile. His voice was as soft as a mosquito and only Scarlet Eye could hear it. Is it? Hearing this, Scarlet Eye's performance was mediocre. She looked at Tatsumi, who wanted to fight with the three beastmen, and suddenly showed an expression of appreciation. Tatsumi is not as weak as you think. Then you watch carefully. Dustless also stared at Tatsumi, who was confronting the three beastmen with interest. He really didn't know where this kid got the courage to 1v3. You scum, disappear. Tatsumi held a wide and thick sword in both hands. Immediately he stomped his feet on the ground. His body suddenly jumped up and swept to the sky. Finally, he slashed at the three beastmen with the force of falling from the sky. Leva snorted when he saw the situation. He immediately rushed out and shouted, "Where did this brat come from? Go home and play house." You are full of flaws. Bang bang bang. As soon as his voice fell, the miserable Tatsumi suddenly flew out. He was kicked more than 10 meters away by Leva. Tatsumi's head was on the ground and his buttocks were sticking out miserably. He was in an extremely embarrassing situation. Pucci. Dustless, who couldn't help laughing, glanced at Scarlet Eye. This guy was also disappointed. Scarlet Eye originally saw that Tatsumi used to practice so hard. His strength must have improved, but according to the current situation, the essence of Tatsumi's embroidered pillow had not changed. This kid looks frustrated. At first glance, he is the kind of person who will die early. It is useless to catch him. Nyo, quickly send this eyesore clown to heaven. Looking at his face, I know that he is a real waste. Leva ordered with great disdain. Tatsumi was born with the expression of a passerby. Even Leva couldn't extract any information from him. Chapter 1627. You know you are useless just by looking at your face? This sentence was like a nightmare that could not be dismissed, lingering in Tatsumi's mind for a long time. What's the use of looking at my face? What's more, how do you know that I am possessed by the god of misfortune? Tatsumi's self-esteem was challenged by Leva. He quickly stood up and said sarcastically, "With your level, the elder brother can easily solve it." Elder brother? Is it the guy Dustless? A cunning look flashed through his eyes. Leva asked calmly, deliberately stimulating Tatsumi's nerves. You are not even worthy to carry shoes for Dustless. After all we have fought with him, I still feel that it is a dream to be alive. My elder brother is Bullet. Tatsumi retorted with a red face. He and Dustless had deep resentment. How could he recognize such a person as his elder brother? Daoist knew. It seems that in addition to this guy there are other people on the ship. You two go to search carefully, they are likely to be disguised. Remember to touch everyone's face. Leva said to the other two beasts. He originally felt strange. Tatsumi was so weak, how could they send such a small person to attack at night? There must be other helpers. Is this Tatsumi's head broken by the door? Dustless, who deliberately pretended to be dead, said speechlessly. He had already seen Nu and Daoist coming over. It was only a matter of time to remove his and Akame's disguise. There are indeed some problems. This time Akame also stood on Dustless's side. She did not defend Tatsumi. Tatsumi's behavior was clearly to cheat his teammates. Let's do it. Glancing at Akame, who was lying on his body, Dustless's eyes flashed a cold light. Do it quickly. Akame nodded. Under Dustless's incredible and surprised gaze, Akame's right arm slowly stretched to her trousers. Then she directly untied it and took out her taigu, Murasame. I had no choice. This banquet doesn't allow anyone to bring weapons. I had no choice but to come up with another plan. Chi Tong looked at Dustless in embarrassment. But there's no need to hide it in your pants, Dustless complained in his heart. He was too lazy to dwell on this issue. Let's do it. They're coming. Looking closely, Daoist and Nia were gradually approaching Dustless and Scarlet Eye. Clang 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 clang. Chi Tong suddenly unsheathed his long saber and a cold light shot out. Seeing the right time, Chi Tong turned into an afterimage and shot out, crossing a distance of several meters in an instant. Pucci. Daoist, one of the three beastmen, was killed by Scarlet Pupil in an instant. Swish. Swish. Chi Tong did not stop there. Instead he looked at another target, Ni Wu. You want to kill me? No way. The death of his teammate gave Ni Wu a chance to catch his breath. At the same time he caught sight of Chi Tong pouncing on him. He immediately used his special flute to block the incoming attack. Clang 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 clang. Sparks splashed in the void. Chi Tong and Ni Wu were entangled. Although Ni Wu was prepared, he was still sent flying by the brute force of Chi Tong's attack. Bang bang. Crack crack. Ni Wu's body slammed heavily on the cabin. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. This guy is so strong. Although Chi Tong had injured Ni Wu, he obviously did not have enough strength to kill him. However, this was normal. After all, Chi Tong was not a strength-type player like Bullet. It seems like I don't need to do anything. Seeing this, Dustless decisively chose to continue playing dead. Creak. However, at this moment the soldiers hidden in the cabin all rushed out. An extremely unexpected figure suddenly walked out with his head held high. This guy is here too? Seeing the majestic figure with golden hair, Dustless frowned slightly. This person had a majestic appearance. His face was meticulous and his face was full of majesty. He looked very domineering. General Bude. Qi Tong's eyes were full of caution and spoke out the identity of this person. The person in front of him was another great general with the same name as his death, Bude. His strength was beyond doubt. Since he could sit in the position of a great general and have the same name as his death, he must be a strong man with enough strength. However, what Dustless cared about was not this. Blinking his eyes, Dustless's closed eyes opened again, and there was a puzzled expression in his eyes. Why is this old guy here? So after that. Then he thought about it a little and felt relieved. General Bude used his own power to protect a lot of conscientious civil officials. These people are probably his people. It's understandable to protect these civil officials. They are all political enemies of Minister Ernest. Dustless, who understood, was relieved. He stared at General Bude with a slightly playful expression. The current situation seems to be extremely unfavorable for Qi Tong and others. The appearance of General Bude changed the whole situation at once. Where is Bullet? If he doesn't come out, Tatsumi will die. Observation hockey quietly spread out. Dustless tried to find Bullet's breath, and soon the sky floated into his eyes. He was quite surprised to find that this guy was beside him. This old guy isn't trying to assassinate me, is he? Curious, Dustless did not take the initiative to talk to Tatsumi, but continued to play dead as if he saw nothing. However, Bullet did not buy it. Why are you deliberately targeting Tatsumi? We should be companions. The voice full of dissatisfaction rang in Dustless's ears. The voice was so low that only he could barely hear it. Others could not hear Bullet's hoarse voice. Chapter 1628. When Bullet's words fell, Dustless opened his eyes. His eyes were slightly surprised. He sighed at the greatness of gay love. He didn't expect that Bullet would fall out with him for Tatsumi. In fact, there is no reason. I just feel uncomfortable looking at that naive kid all day long. Dustless said in answer that made Bullet angry. This was also a common problem of Dustless. People with protagonist aura were often very annoying. He always sneered at the kind of thinking that his own idea was right and others were wrong. Ha! Bullet, who was stunned by Dustless's nonsensical answer, was furious. Dustless, for such a ridiculous answer you deliberately targeted Tatsumi? You even almost killed him several times. You think it's ridiculous? Wuxia lazily glanced at Bullet and then shook his head gently. Sure enough, we're not on the same path. I have nothing to say to you. Since we're not on the same path, I won't see you off. Same. Glancing coldly at Dustless, Bullet flicked his sleeves and left. It seemed that he was going to find trouble with Leva. At the same time, Bullet's resolute and decisive declaration echoed in Dustless's ears. No matter what, I will protect Tatsumi. Don't ask me why. Just because he called me big brother just now. This guy is looking for death. Is he deliberately making an enemy of me? Staring at Bullet's back if possible, Dustless really didn't want to kill him. Although this guy was gay, he was still a good person. Why did he have to protect Tatsumi the Jinx? It's time for the disguise mission to end. Staring at the robust figure approaching Scarlet Pupil, it was General Bude. His majestic height was several times larger than Scarlet Pupil. It was obvious who was at a disadvantage. It's really sad. Geniuses like you can become the future pillars of the empire. General Bude walked in front of Scarlet Pupil with great oppression. Seeing Scarlet Pupil's firm eyes, he smacked his lips and sighed very sentimentally, but his eyes were full of killing intent when he looked at Scarlet Pupil. If people like you aren't killed as soon as possible, you'll be a huge problem in the future. Great General Budo restrained his emotions, and they were replaced by endless coldness. Cunning old fox. Scarlet Eye snorted warily. Perhaps Grand General Bude already knew that the three beasts had infiltrated the ship. The reason why he didn't rush to stop the three beasts from killing the civil officials was because he had the same plan as the three beasts, to lure the night raid out to court death. It's not that I'm cunning, it's just that you guys are too immature. With a look of devastation in his eyes, Great General Bude crossed several meters in a single step and arrived in front of Qi Tong in the blink of an eye. His mighty fist smashed down. So fast. Akame's pupils constricted. After a moment of shock, she hurriedly took out her katana to block the attack. Bang bang bang. The result was just as Dustless had guessed. Qi Tong was forced to retreat repeatedly. In terms of swordsmanship, Scarlet Eye might be good, but in terms of strength she was much weaker. She was sent flying by General Bude's punch, her face pale. The old guy's strength is not small. Dustless looked at General Bude in surprise. The Taigu of this old guy was also an extremely top existence. Could control the powerful natural forces such as thunder and lightning. Not only was his speed strong but also his strength. Scarlet Eye could not occupy any advantage. What a strong power. Feeling the overwhelming power of General Bude, Scarlet Eye, whose face changed slightly, said to herself cautiously. The eyes that usually looked at her own people as gentle as water were wise and bright at the moment, trying to capture the loopholes of General Bude. Maybe you can completely surpass me in a few years, but as for now... General Bude slowly approached Scarlet Eye. Seeing that she could still stand firm, he gave Scarlet Eye a look of appreciation. He used all his strength in the blow just now. Now I have the advantage of age after all. Go to hell, young man. General Bude once again appeared behind Scarlet Eye in a flash. The exaggerated and abnormal speed of thunder and lightning was revealed. Scarlet Eye didn't even have time to react. The reaction speed of human beings was always fundamental to lightning. After all, not everyone had observation haki and many dojutsu like Dustless. Oh no. Noticing the sudden appearance of General Bude, Scarlet Eye secretly cursed. She turned her head to look. General Bude's strong and powerful fist had already smashed to her head. She would definitely die if she was hit directly. Wansho Tensei. At the critical moment, Dustless did not hesitate to stand up and disturb the situation. His right hand gently grabbed into the void. Scarlet Eye's body flew into Dustless's arms uncontrollably. Is this gravity? Squinting his eyes and carefully feeling the power that had not dissipated in the void, General Bude was quite surprised. His eyes could not help but follow the source. Among the 48 Taigu, it seemed that there was no weapon that controlled gravity. Little old man Bud, you're already so old yet you're bullying a teenage girl. The word shameless is tailor-made for you. General Bude heard Dustless's harsh ridicule. He could not help but raise his eyebrows. After staring at Dustless for a while, he said in a very surprised tone, "You are really similar to the dead prince. You can simply pass off as the real one." "It's none of my business." Dustless heard the words and disdained. He was not interested in the so-called prince, but Scarlet Eye's eyes flashed with amazement. She looked at Dustless with her eyes full of brilliance. It seemed that she had thought of a good plan. "This kid is the Dustless that is death said? On the surface he is indeed extraordinary and his ability is quite strange. No wonder Death wants to join forces with me to deal with him." General Bude's eyes were fixed on Dustless's head. He could not help but nod with satisfaction. He could feel that Dustless was extraordinary just by looking at his face. Even if he knew his identity as a general, he was very calm. Chapter 1629. General Budo's eyes widened. He looked at Dustless as if he was looking at a dead person. The dead eyes made everyone feel numb. The atmosphere of the whole ship was extremely depressing. This old fox. Leva of the three beasts saw General Budo and immediately understood the cause and effect. He recalled that it was no wonder that he could board this big ship safely. It was most likely that this strong old man acquiesced. He not only wanted to annihilate the members of the night raid, but also wanted to kill the three beasts. He could even use this opportunity to attack his death and kill Minister Ernest. "You who want to destroy the peace of the Empire, this time I will let you try the sanction of my Taigu, Thunder God's wrath. Admalek." General Budo shook his thick arms and suddenly there was a dull explosion. His arms were wrapped with heavy iron piles, and the strength and power of the attack were bound to increase. Dustless was okay. People like Akame or Bullet would not be able to bear the consequences if they were hit. Bring it on. Turning a deaf ear to General Budo's demonstration, Dustless just hooked his thumb contemptuously. "You want to die." Seeing this, Grand General Bud immediately launched a powerful attack. His whole body emitted lightning, crackling and flashing, and collided head-on with a straight light. Boom boom boom. Even because the speed of General Budo's running was too exaggerated, the ship swayed slightly with his steps. Every time the blonde old man took a step, the wooden deck would be crushed by him. What an amazing momentum. Is this the combat power of the Empire's strongest general? It's really strong. Steph is also at the same level as Budo. Akame was secretly shocked. Unless it was a life-or-death fight, she had no chance to win. Fortunately, we still have Dustless on our side. The situation is 2 against 2. It is fair. Akame's tight face was relieved and she smiled easily. God was always fair. Armament hockey hardening. The white arms suddenly turned dark black, and Wuxian also attacked without the slightest bit of fear. Boom boom boom. Their fists collided and a powerful shock wave spread out. Tatsumi was caught off guard and Akame and the others were forced to retreat. Bang. Scarlet Pupil was fine after all, her strength was worthy of recognition. On the contrary, Tatsumi was not so lucky. His body was thrown out and smashed on the deck. The pain was unbearable. Although his body was in pain, Tatsumi's mental blow was more serious. Can I really reach that level? Tatsumi was at a loss. For the first time he doubted Bullet. He always felt that this guy was fooling him. After all, Dustless's strength was unreliable. Not to mention fighting with Dustless, he even had to stay far away from the battle. If he was not careful, he would be affected. Swish. Swish. A black shadow roared and attacked Tatsumi, who was in a daze. He was punched again. Bang. Tatsumi, who was suffering unspeakably, spat out a mouthful of blood again. The smell of blood in his mouth assailed his nostrils, and the blood stained his entire gums. You dare to be distracted while fighting with me? Are you an idiot or are you confident in your own strength? Leva's sarcasm was not concealed. He sneered at Tatsumi and sneered unceremoniously. Is Bullet's head rusty? During the time when you joined the night raid, it seems that your mind and spirit have fallen. I really don't know why he values a mediocre person like you. Bullet is really ignorant. Leva curled his lips and unscrupulously despised Tatsumi. Originally he thought that even if Tatsumi's strength was not good, he had some skills. At least he was worthy of others' respect. After testing a few more times, he found that Tatsumi was just an embroidered pillow. No, I understand the reason why Bullet values you. If you think about it carefully, you actually have your own strengths. No wonder Bullet will treat you differently. At this moment, Leva changed the thread of discussion. His eyes flashed with light. He obviously thought of something and took back his words. Really? What's so different about me? Tatsumi was also interested. Originally, he thought that he was an ordinary person and there was nothing special about him. But after listening to Leva, he also understood that he was a person who was pitted by God. Hee, Leva smiled and immediately grinned. You are very lucky. After all, luck is also a part of strength. And there is another thing that I admire very much. You can take a beating. How many times have you been knocked down to the ground and it's difficult for you to stand up? How hard is your skin? After that, Leva showed a look of, I'm not as good as you. You. Tatsumi's face was red and he was angry. Was this an advantage? Was this a compliment to him? This was worse than pointing at his nose and swearing. Humph, there is no need to argue with a small character like you. Glancing at him coldly, Tatsumi also rarely talked nonsense with Leva. This guy was just a lackey of his death. Talking nonsense with him would make him lose his status. Big brother values me because I have the confidence to defeat Dustless. Tatsumi's mind flashed with brilliance. This might be the fundamental reason. Are you kidding me? Leva sneered more unscrupulously when he heard the words. He stared at Tatsumi with an expression of looking at an idiot and said unceremoniously, You are just a trash? I have fought with that guy and I know the horror of Dustless. Recalling the process of fighting with Dustless, Leva's face showed a touch of fear. He stared at Tatsumi and said disdainfully, I can defeat 10 Tatsumi and Esteth can even defeat 10 of me. And Dustless can easily play tricks on Esteth. His combat power is 10 times higher than Esteth. You dare to dream of defeating Dustless, are you a pig? Chapter 1630. Are you a pig? This sentence robbed Tatsumi a lot and his body could not help but tremble. Even if he was not as good as Dustless, he did not need to ridicule him so ruthlessly. It hurt his self-esteem. General Leva, what you said is too much. Beside Tatsumi, Bullet appeared without warning, and his indifferent eyes were full of annoyance. Hey Bullet, I know you are wandering around me. Leva smiled indifferently and shrugged helplessly. Who let you value this incompetent kid so much, and your skill of hiding is excellent. As long as I deliberately ridicule him, you will definitely show up. After all, you are the kind of person who values friendship. I know you too well. You deserve to be my former boss, you really know me well. Bullet just faintly responded and then glanced at Tatsumi. He saw his decadence and frustration. Seeing his face full of disappointment and loneliness, he did not know what to do. Who asked Liwa to speak the truth? Let's perform the task first. Kill the 3 beastmen. Bullet was too lazy to entangle with Tatsumi's affairs. Everyone had their own fate. As the saying goes, the master can lead the way, but it depends on the person. He had done what he could do for Tatsumi. What happened next was Tatsumi's own business. At the same time, there was also a fierce battle in another direction. Boom boom boom. The dazzling lightning all hit Dustless's body. He was hit hard in an instant. His body immediately sunk, and then he could not bear the powerful force and burst open. Did it succeed? General Buddha stared anxiously. Just now for a few minutes he couldn't even catch Dustless's body. Now that he finally caught the real body and destroyed it, he was very excited and happy. Boom boom boom. Dustless's body finally burst open and turned into light all over the sky. If it was put on ordinary people, he would be dead. However, after seeing Dustless's abnormality, General Bude's old face suddenly collapsed. Looking at the golden photons all over the sky, he could not help but burst out. Damn, what kind of Taigu is this bastard? General Bude was extremely angry. Dustless was far more troublesome than he imagined. If the opponent was a powerful enemy, there would at least be a possibility of defeating the opponent, but if the opponent was air that you couldn't hit, could you win? I'm giving in to you, but not only are you not grateful, you're insulting me instead. Using scum to describe you is an insult to this noble word. Dustless, who had just repaired his body, teased in a sarcastic tone. If you have the guts, fight me fair and square. General Budo clenched his fists and roared. He was particularly miserable because he couldn't hit Dustless's body at all. He was being played around like a clown. If you dare to fight me head-on, I'll beat you up so badly that even your own mother won't recognize you. General Budo stared at Dustless confidently, hoping to goad Dustless into throwing away his advantage. Really? Then I will fulfill your wish. Dustless glanced at General Bude, then turned into a thick beam of light and flew out. Lightspeed kick. When he appeared again, he was in front of General Budo, followed by a dazzling beam of light, all of which exploded on General Budo's rough face. Boom boom boom. General Budo's body was swept away by a magnificent flash of light. Dustless kicked him dozens of meters away, smashing through several wooden rooms. If he didn't react in time, this kick would have been enough to kick General Budo into the sea and take a bath with sharks. How is this possible? Could it be that he was giving in to me just now? This kid is not the kind of person who respects the old and loves the young. General Budo's heart was in a perilous situation. He touched his stinging face and immediately grimaced in pain. He couldn't help but feel sad that he wanted to cry but had no tears. General Budo could even feel that his face had been kicked askew. Just now he was shamelessly boasting that he would beat Dustless to the point that even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. Now the result was the opposite. General Budo was 100% sure that if he returned to the imperial capital, the great emperor wouldn't recognize him. The person who was beaten to the point that even his own mother wouldn't recognize him wasn't Dustless, but General Budo. Phew phew phew. At the same time, a flash of light suddenly appeared behind him. The cold voice made General Budo sweat profusely, and he turned his head stiffly like a robot. Bang bang bang. An iron fist came to his face. General Budo's face suddenly caved in, his nose was directly beaten into a bloody mess and even disappeared out of thin air. Bang bang. General Budo was blown more than 10 meters away by Dustless's punch. He was lying on the deck half dead and his faint breathing could still be heard faintly. He was so close to the gate of hell. What kind of monster is that guy? Bullet, who was fighting with Leva, was stunned. His eyes were staring at Dustless in horror. This guy was so horrible that he could cripple a general with one punch and one kick. Sure enough, it's almost the same as I predicted. The strength of this guy is at least 10 times more than Master's death. Leva also had a cold expression. This scene was too incredible. One punch and one kick to kill one of the strongest in the Empire. It was enough to dislocate people's jaws. Can I really surpass this kind of monster? Tatsumi couldn't bear the blow and took the initiative to cover his eyes. If he continued to watch this scene, he would have trouble sleeping and eating. Such a nightmare enemy could be called a godlike existence. So powerful. Akame's eyes were full of brilliance. She deeply admired Dustless's overwhelming strength. After all, it was a world where the strong were respected. A person who could kill a general in seconds was definitely more popular than the weak. Chapter 1631. Damn it, no wonder that is death bowed to me. It turned out that all the reasons were for him. Hateful, I should have joined forces with this death to deal with this kid. Looking at the approaching Dustless, General Budo finally gritted his teeth and stood up. Oh, very strong, you can still stand up. Dustless's eyes flashed a ripple and immediately said, but it's a pity. Whoosh. As soon as the voice fell, Dustless's body immediately shone, and the golden beam began to wander again. Hateful. Witnessing such a scene, Grand General Buddha complained incessantly. But now that things had come to this, he had no choice but to bite the bullet. Dustless would never let him off, and Grand General Buddha wouldn't let Dustless off either. In the end, it was the same, there was no possibility of reconciliation. Boom. The silver light echoed between heaven and earth. General Budo, who had been devastated, had to burst out the last strength to deal with it. He turned into a lightning storm and attacked. Whoosh. General Budo waved his arms with all his might. Light balls about the size of a human head shot out from his arms one after another, densely rolling towards Dustless. One after another, the number was endless and each of them was extraordinary. Boom. Dustless did not stop and continued to walk leisurely. The silver energy ball exploded on his body, but in any case, Dustless did not suffer any harm similar to the transparent people. The violent explosion caused the deck of the ship to collapse, and the whole ship had a tendency to tilt, but Grand General Budo still attacked Dustless with all his might. There was no sign of stopping and he wanted to completely destroy it. Has the sun set? Suddenly he turned his head and swept to the distant crimson sky. The fiery red sun had set over the mountain and unknowingly, the darkness had quietly come. Let's stop here. Dustless gradually lost interest in continuing the entertainment and his mind waned. Looking at the crazy General Budo, his body burst into golden light, and a flash swept in front of him. Let me teach you how to use lightning. Right on, thousand birds. The silver dazzling thunder roared out and went straight to General Budo's internal organs. Because the flash was too dazzling, looking at each other could make people dizzy. General Budo was no exception. Even if he was aware of Dustless's attack, he could only close his eyes helplessly. In particular, the thousands of thunder made him even more frightened. Puchi. The flash and thousands of birds were all extinguished, and the world was very quiet at this moment, but everyone's eyes were on General Budo. Victory and defeat has been decided. Staring at General Budo's pale face, Dustless was unusually calm. Following his line of sight, one could see that General Budo had a bloody hole in his chest. Papa. Not only that, but inside General Budo's abdomen, there was also crackling lightning, burning his internal organs, mercilessly destroying all the organs of his body. Sensing the rapid loss of his life force, Grand General Budo closed his eyes in despair, as if he had already admitted defeat. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it. Looking at General Budo regretfully, since he knew this would happen, he shouldn't have been so arrogant. If he had kept a low profile, this wouldn't have happened. All of this was General Budo asking for humiliation. Goodbye. Patting the dust off his body, Dustless was about to leave, but suddenly he found a thick arm grabbing him, powerful and extremely strong, and forcibly pulled back Dustless, who wanted to leave. Raising his head to look at the instigator, Dustless shockingly discovered that it was Grand General Budo. This old guy opened his eyes again and showed an extremely crazy and cunning expression. Ha! You've been fooled. General Budo's unusually proud laughter resounded through the boundless night sky. He quickly took out a special needle and stabbed it into his neck without hesitation. An unknown liquid flowed down the pillow into General Budo's body. You're too strong, let me strengthen you first. A large number of blue veins appeared on his neck. General Budo looked at Dustless with a ferocious expression. At this moment, Dustless was like a little lamb, extremely weak in the eyes of General Budo. Very surprised, right? General Budo laughed sinisterly. Very surprised indeed. Dustless heard this and fixed his eyes on General Budo, sighing, I thought you were a person who disdained to play tricks, but I didn't expect that I was wrong. Dustless confessed to this without concealing anything. It could be considered that he had suffered a setback. After all, although he was powerful, it was also impossible to see through everyone's thoughts. So what if you caught me? You think you can still turn the tables? Looking at General Budo's destroyed organs, Dustless said with pity, Now you're just relying on medicine. Of course I still have things to do. That is to take you down with me. General Budo roared. Pa pa pa. At the same time the extinguished taiga once again emitted lightning. All rushed to Dustless's body. He suddenly looked like a lightning man. His whole body was emitting huge thunder and lightning. Although the thunder and lightning can't hurt you, there's still a fatal place. Looking at Dustless, who was swallowed by lightning, General Budo loosened his right arm and laughed with victory in his hand. You should be weak now, have no strength to move, right? Thunder and lightning can paralyze you. Puchi. Puchi. General Budo's voice just fell. Two lights flashed. Dustless waved the sword as if nothing happened. The sharp edge cut off General Budo's arms one after another. Boom. The bloody arms fell to the ground. General Budo collapsed and his mind was blank. You want to paralyze me with your half-baked lightning? Are you an idiot? Chapter 1632. Hearing Dustless's ridicule, General Budo did not attack back this time. Perhaps he had accepted this cruel fact in his heart. Dustless was an existence that he looked up to. Huh. General Budo suddenly smiled stupidly. Even if his arms were cut off by Dustless, he did not feel the slightest pain. His heart was desperate and numb. Go to hell with me, General Budo said crazily. At the same time his taiga broke out a destructive super thunder and lightning. Strangely, it did not attack Dustless but gathered on General Budo's body. Boom boom boom. The void that was still quiet suddenly became violent. The lightning surged. The thick silver thunder dragon turned over in the clouds. The scene was amazing. It turns out that you want to drag me to hell with you? Dustless stared at the thunder and lightning that overflowed from General Budo's body, and he suddenly understood something. Boom boom boom. The violent thunder and lightning fell from the sky, the unparalleled destructive power. The autumn wind swept the fallen leaves, and the cruelly destroyed the sailing ship. Phew phew phew. Dustless's body flashed suddenly. He took the lead to rush to the front of Akame, grasped Akame's body tightly, and immediately threw her into the water without hesitation. Boom boom boom. The next second the whole ship was attacked by lightning. It burned with a thick flame in an instant. The ship of hundreds of meters turned into a fire ship. Dustless. Akame, who poked her head out from the bottom of the water, was full of worry. At the same time she was unwilling to feel frustrated. She secretly clenched her fists. After all, she was still too weak. Dustless saved her again. He turned himself into a thunder and electromagnetic field, attracting the thunder and lightning in the sky. Does Budo still have such a powerful trick? He is really cunning. Isdeth, who stood at the port, looked far away, looking at the burning ship and the thunder elemental power in the distant void. She vaguely guessed that the initiator was General Budo. Turning oneself into a thunder and electromagnetic field, attracting the power hovering in the sky to execute heavenly punishment, this was one of the strongest moves of General Budo. At the same time it was also the move he used to perish together with Dustless. What a pity. At this moment, the frivolous voice of a young man came from the flaming ship. Looking closely, it was the sloppy Dustless. He was dressed in bright clothes, his face was rosy and his expression was joyful. He didn't look like he was about to receive divine punishment at all. Instead he looked as excited as if he was going on a vacation. Puchi. Looking at the unscathed Dustless, General Budo vomited blood and fell to the ground. Looking at his unwilling expression, he was probably angered to death by Dustless. Now that this guy has been dealt with, it's Bulet's turn. He's the main dish this time. With a bloodthirsty smile on his face, Dustless strolled to the place where Bulet and Leva were fighting. His devilish smile made people shudder. He threw Scarlet Pupil out not only to save her, but also to create a good environment to kill Bulet. As the best villain, not only did he have to trap the enemy, but he also had to scheme against his own people. Even his teammates were no exception. Anyone who defied Dustless's will would definitely die. Damn it. That old man even wants to kill me. The place where Leva and Bulet were fighting had already been reduced to ruins. The surroundings were burning with a blazing sea of fire. Both Leva and Bulet were extremely miserable. Before the two of them started fighting, they were attacked by General Bulet, who summoned thunder and lightning. That terrifying heavenly punishment attack was too frightening. Even if the two of them didn't die, they were seriously injured by the lightning. Bulet's body was even emitting a burnt smell. Leva wasn't any better. Tatsumi, it's yours from now on. Handing the machete that summoned the ghost haunt armor to Tatsumi, Bullet showed a painful expression. The thunder and lightning attack did seriously injure him. Brother, you. Although Tatsumi was quite excited looking at Bullet's painful expression, he still couldn't hold back the sadness in his heart. Idiot, I'm not dead yet. It's not too late to cry for me when I'm dead. Bullet laughed and scolded, you take ghost haunt back temporarily. I'll hold this guy back. No brother, puff. Bullet didn't give Tatsumi a chance to speak. He directly kicked Tatsumi out of the sea of fire. In the world of fire, only Bullet and Leva were left. It's great, Bullet. Sacrificing yourself for others? Your style is really not like an assassin. Leva stood up and said, do you want to die with me? Of course not, I will leave after killing you. Bullet shook his head. He didn't plan to die now. He let Tatsumi take away ghost haunt, because Bullet didn't have extra strength to use it in his current state, so it was better to let Tatsumi take it away. Yo Bullet. At this moment, a voice that surprised Bullet suddenly sounded. Looking at the source, it was Dustless who walked over with a smile. You're not dead? Bullet said in surprise. It was already a miracle that he was still alive after suffering such a terrifying attack, and Dustless was completely unscathed right now. Of course. Buddha, on the other hand, is deader than dead. Dustless walked to Bullet harmlessly, and a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Bullet, I have something to tell you. Is it important? Bullet frowned when he heard the words and then asked, just say it. You're so generous. Dustless smiled and immediately a cold light flashed in his eyes. His right arm penetrated Bullet's heart like a blade. You have to hinder me from killing Tatsumi. Can you please die? Chapter 1633. This sudden scene not only shocked Bullet, but also Leva, the great enemy, was dumbfounded and at a loss. Aren't these two teammates colluding with each other? Isn't everyone in the night raid loving each other? How could there be such a good show of killing each other? How dare this guy? How dare he? How dare he? Bullet kept repeating this sentence, and his stunned eyes gave people the illusion that he was dreaming. Dustless didn't come to save him but directly killed him. Pucci, Dustless's strength went deeper. Bullet's body was badly mutilated, and the tingling pain spread all over his body. Bullet's body was covered with cold sweat, and his face was suddenly as pale as blood. He clenched his fists tightly and he had to loosen them. Bullet had no extra strength to continue fighting with Dustless. Gee. Looking around, Dustless tried to find the trace of Tatsumi, but he helplessly found that the kid had disappeared in advance and he probably escaped again. That kid's luck is pretty good. He always has the foresight to slip away in advance. However, being able to get rid of you this time is also a pleasant surprise. Bullet, I thought you would also run away. Dustless teased with a playful tone, looking at Bullet who was in pain. The depths of his eyes were as cold as ice, without a trace of pity or sympathy. The road is his own choice, no one forced him and he will pay the price if he goes wrong. Dustless? The boss will not let you go. Bullet's face darkened as he roared. He could still feel at ease if he had died in the hands of the enemy. After all, he had died in battle. However, he had been killed by his own people for no reason. How could this be? Bullet's heart was extremely depressed. Gee, I'm really sorry. No one knows about this. Pointing to Riva, Dustless said with a smile. Bullet and Riva, one of the three beasts, fell after the battle and I, Uchiha Dustless, bravely saved him. In the end, although I didn't save Bullet, I helped you to avenge him and killed Riva. What do you think of this script? Were you moved to tears when you heard that? Puff. As his voice fell, both Riva and Bullet couldn't hold back, and the two of them were seriously injured by Supreme General Budo before, and as a result they couldn't hold back their blood. You despicable, shameless villain. The two of them stared at Dustless angrily. This guy's ability to make up a story is superb. He pushed all the blame and responsibility to Riva and Bullet, and Dustless himself was the savior. This gorgeous script may make Negenda reward Dustless, the culprit. Don't look at me with this kind of eyes that want to tear me into pieces. I said before I didn't intend to kill you, but you had to collude with Tatsumi. If you want to blame, you can only blame your naivety and ignorance. Don't worry, Tatsumi will meet you soon. Pucci. Dustless increased his strength and instantly squeezed Bullet's heart. Oh. After letting out an extremely painful howl, Bullet's eyes dimmed as he fell to the ground. His face was filled with desolation and unwillingness. His eyes had completely darkened and were extremely empty and gloomy. Tatsumi will definitely avenge me. Bullet unconsciously muttered to himself. He was close to sleep, but in fact he was full of hesitation. Compared with Dustless, Tatsumi was simply a slag. It was more appropriate to call him Slag Rice. Next it's you. Glancing at the fallen Bullet, Dustless's gaze then shifted to Leva. The latter immediately retreated a few steps in fear. This guy was really too evil. It was understandable that he was ruthless to the enemy, but he was also so cruel to his own people. Dustless's heresy refreshed Riva's understanding. Even Isdeth trusted her own people very much, but this guy could kill his companions at will. His means were worse than Isdeth's. Go to hell. However, it was useless to escape. Dustless flashed and rushed in front of him. A cold light left a shocking wound on Riva's body. Plop. Although Riva was unwilling, he also fell to the ground and his vitality accelerated. In a trance, he had seen the Grim Reaper with a sickle coming to take his life. I'm really merciful. Dustless muttered to himself. His indifferent face didn't show the slightest bit of guilt or self-blame. He had once given Bullet a chance, but Bullet insisted on going against him and brought disgrace upon himself. You. Riva tried his best to open his eyes and stared at Dustless, who was close at hand. Finally he whispered, you crazy demon, Isdeth will definitely defeat you. Demon? Dustless revealed a puzzled expression when he heard that. He pretended to be sorrowful and said, I let you two good brothers die together. Furthermore, it's still going to hell hand in hand. You two should thank me. My behavior is no different from that of an angel. Puff. In the end, Leva couldn't bear the blow and choked with sobs for the rest of his life. Soon after, he was angered to death. If angels were as black-bellied and callous as Dustless, the entire human race might have been destroyed countless years ago. Boom boom boom. The fire continued to burn and everyone on the ship panicked. They were like headless flies, but they were already at the end of their rope. Now that the entire ship was on fire and they were in the middle of the ocean, there was only one outcome for these people. Death. The mission is completed, we can retreat. Although Tatsumi's record is less, we have General Butte, which is barely good. Chapter 1634. Time flew by and 3 days later the news of Bullet's death spread throughout the night raid. Everyone was quite sad. After all, they had spent a long time with Bullet. The result was exactly the same as Dustless's plan. Leva, one of the three beasts, took all the responsibility, and Dustless himself was the superhero of annihilating the enemy. Dustless put all the merits on his head shamelessly. However, this was not the most important thing. The key was that Boss Najenda and other members of the night raid were convinced by Dustless's answer, and they even specially gave him quite a generous reward. If Bullet in the underworld knew all this, he would be so angry that he would climb out of the coffin. Damn, no wonder I didn't find the set of ugly god armor. Ghost Haunt. Turned out that Tatsumi took it away, this damn kid. Every time he escapes, his luck is too good. At the base of the night raid, looking at Tatsumi, who was training hard outside the window, Dustless's complaints about him multiplied. This kid's luck was really too good. Now Tatsumi had put on Ghost Haunt, and trained like Bullet, even crazier than Bullet. After all, Bullet's death was caused by his cowardice. Who? Boss Najenda knocked on the table, then smoked leisurely and then said softly, Ghost Haunt is Bullet's relic, and at the same time Bullet took the initiative to give it to Tatsumi. I intend to respect Bullet's choice. The next user of Ghost Haunt, Tatsumi. I know, Bullet originally valued Tatsumi, and it's reasonable to give it to him. Dustless didn't refute when he heard the words. This was what he expected. The only thing worth complaining about was that Tatsumi and Bullet's relationship was too good. It seemed that he was the one who took advantage of Bullet every time. Cough cough cough. Everyone be quiet, I have another important emergency to announce. Najenda's expression suddenly became serious and serious. It's a good thing to kill General Bullet this time. It's an unexpected surprise. Dustless should record it. I agree. Akame was the first to stand up and nod in agreement. If it weren't for Dustless, she might have been killed by General Bute's exaggerated move. Therefore Akame was grateful to Dustless. This dissolute fellow. Mine saw Akame's affectionate and grateful eyes and immediately felt a threat. She also looked at Dustless, but it was the kind of scorching and extremely unpleasant. Damn it, why is there such a huge gap between us? How many days has it been since this kid started his night raid? She actually won the attention of mine and Akame at the same time? I am the elder of the night raid. Why is my agenda like a stone? Even Leonette also treats Dustless differently, including Hill. Dustless once saved her life. Dustless also seems to trust Dustless very much. Damn it, this guy is an unprecedented crisis for me. Lubbock saw such a scene, he wanted to cry but had no tears. He stared at Dustless with jealousy. If he didn't do well, his agenda would be taken by this kid first. I heard that Isteth recently set up a special force. The members are the same Taiga users as you. If I am right, they are all used against us. Najenda was cautious, and her light purple eyes were full of tension. She subconsciously touched the destroyed eyes and the mechanical arm. The fear that Isteth brought to her was unforgettable. Listen clearly, according to the recent gossip, this special police department is called Jaegers. Jaegers? An organization that specializes in hunting people. This name is really arrogant. Leonette stood up and snorted. She seemed to be very dissatisfied with Isteth's arrogance. Dustless did not speak. He sat aside calmly and no one knew what he was thinking. The guy Selly Ubiquitas was killed by me. I am afraid that one of the original members is missing now. In the original work, Selly Ubiquitas of the Guards was also one of them, and she even killed Hill. But now, the development of the situation was forcefully rewritten by Dustless. This time her luck wasn't very good. She was eliminated by Dustless in advance. On the contrary, Hill was still alive and well. All in all, everyone should be a little more careful recently. Try to avoid confronting Isteth head-on. I know her temperament better, so we can consume her slowly. The boss Nagenda's wise order, her bright eyes were quite far-sighted. Although this was a passive tactic, Isteth was like a maggot to her, and the shadow in her heart could never be removed. Boss Bullet has fallen. Do we need to add members? Hill, who was a natural airhead, stared at Bullet's former position and couldn't help but suggest, if there is one less person, the efficiency of our task will be greatly reduced, and it will affect Ken in the future. Hill is right, it's also right to find a new person to join. After all, Bullet's position needs to be replaced by others. Now Tatsumi has the set of armor. Haunted. With his ability, it is impossible to surpass Bullet in a short time. Hey, if Bullet could hold on for a while, I could save him. Wuxian said guiltily in a self-blaming tone. You tried your best, don't mind Dustless. Patting Dustless's shoulder, Najenda showed a regretful and disappointed expression. If Bullet's spirit is in heaven, he will thank you. Spirit? Bullshit. You can't have it. If there is, that kid must curse me to death. Dustless smiled, but he complained in his heart. Chapter 1635. Dustless still remembered the eyes of Bullet, who died with grievances. It was better for the soul of that kind of person to dissipate. It was not a good thing to be remembered by a ghost all day long. During the time when I am away, Scarlet Pupil will temporarily act as the boss. After sorting out the package that had been prepared, Najenda was about to leave. Finally, she did not forget to ask, "Do you have any questions? During this time, don't go out at will." Boss, don't worry, we are not children. Everyone has the consciousness of being an assassin. We will not avenge Bullet temporarily. Leonie leaned lazily on the chair with a pleasant expression. At the same time, she did not forget to glance out of the window, but she found that Tatsumi, who was still training, suddenly disappeared. Where's Tatsumi? After a few seconds of hesitation, Leonie's tone increased several times. Tatsumi? These words made everyone's face change greatly. Everyone looked at the place where Tatsumi and Bullet usually trained. The scene in front of them made everyone frown deeply. They didn't know when, but the place was empty. Tatsumi disappeared. Before the first wave subsides, another wave rises. Tatsumi is probably going to avenge Bullet. Dustless explained in a very positive tone. Dustless had previously pushed all the blame of Bullet's death to Leva of the Three Beasts. And who was the boss of the Three Beasts? After General Bullet was killed, there was only one strongest sadist general left in the Empire. Isteth. I guess Tatsumi went to trouble Isteth. Scarlet Pupil's cheeks also showed a rare displeasure. Although she was quite optimistic about Tatsumi, she couldn't help but complain at the moment. Night Raid was an assassin organization. Sometimes, It was inevitable that members would be killed. The members must be calm, but Tatsumi was too willful. What he did was completely opposite to the assassin's philosophy. I guess that the kid would not be quiet. I originally planned to let you keep an eye on him. Najenda put down the package that she picked up again. She looked helpless and had a headache. Although she could understand Tatsumi's pain as a professional assassin, she must not be controlled by her own emotions. Absolute rationality was necessary. That idiot Tatsumi, I'm afraid Esteth is waiting for him to take the bait. I heard that Esteth has recently organized a civic contest. At that time, Esteth will personally participate. It is estimated that she will use herself as bait to lure the members of the night raid. If Tatsumi is caught, we can use his mouth to get the news of our base. Touching his chin, Dustless showed a gloating smile. With him in the night attack, it would be fine. No matter what, Tatsumi the little boy was going to be unlucky. If he was caught by Esteth, he would be severely tortured. It would be best if Esteth could kill Tatsumi, who was an eyesore. I suggest we change our base immediately. Dustless was bored and knocked on the table, making the sound of dong dong. He analyzed. Everyone knows the situation of Esteth. Tatsumi may be able to defeat her in the future, but now he is just sending himself to Esteth. And Esteth is the sadist general. She is good at torturing people. If Tatsumi is caught, who knows whether he can withstand the torture. It is necessary to change the base temporarily. Mine and Gil nodded after hearing the words. Well, let's listen to Dustless's plan and change the base temporarily. Boss Najenda continued. However, you guys go to the capital to investigate together. All members of the night raid were exposed. Remember to disguise yourselves. If Tatsumi has not implemented the revenge plan, it is best to save him. He is also a member of the night raid. We can't leave him alone. When she said this, Najenda did not have much confidence. After all, everyone knew the relationship between Bullet and Tatsumi. Tatsumi hated the culprit Esteth. Even so, but the corners of Wu Chen's mouth squirmed and he suddenly interrupted. What if Tatsumi doesn't listen? When he is stubborn, even 10 cows can't pull him back. What if the kid doesn't obey our orders? Dustless is right. I know Tatsumi's character. Lubbock also nodded. Everyone got along with each other day and night. Even if they didn't know each other's background, at least they still knew each other's character. This worry was not unreasonable. The relationship between Bullet and Tatsumi is extraordinary. Leonie sighed and followed. She suddenly felt that it was a mistake to pull the naive and optimistic Tatsumi into the night raid. If that's the case, Boss Najenda's eyes were cold and said, if that's the case, there is no way. We can only kill Tatsumi by ourselves. I hope he can understand our pain. We can't ruin the revolution because of him alone. I'm waiting for you to say that. Dustless's eyes were fierce as if he was possessed by an evil spirit. The Revolutionary Army was not something that Dustless could control. The decaying empire was not a good thing, but there must be factions within the Revolutionary Army. As a result, there must be intrigue. Then the darkness began to sprout at the same time. Anyway, I can use infinite Tsukuyomi to kill this world in the end. All human beings are my nourishment. Dustless smiled calmly. It was extremely terrifying, far more terrifying than the monsters of the Empire. Compared with Dustless, Minister Ernest was simply an angel. At the moment in the imperial capital, as Dustless and others guessed, Tatsumi arrived on time. He also knew that his identity was exposed, so he deliberately disguised himself before sneaking into the imperial capital. Chapter 1636. At the moment, in the luxurious palace of the imperial capital. In a room with an elegant environment, Esteth looked at the members of the Jaeger's police force below with satisfaction. The only regret was that the guard named Celia Ubiquitas had been killed by Dustless. Captain, will someone really attack us in this citizens' contest? Other members of the Jaegers questioned. This person had a handsome face and short blonde hair. His name was Lon. I'm not sure. Anyway, it is boring to hold a battle to pass the time. There are several Taigu. It is the right to choose the right users. Esteth shrugged her shoulders indifferently. Night raids were all famous rats and only God knew their specific movements. However, according to my estimation, the young man named Tatsumi is a loyal person. Once there is a chance, he will never let me go. Esteth played with her nails. Her tone was very lazy, but deep in her eyes, there was a bright and strange luster. At the same time, the other members of the special police force, the hunters, also made their appearance. Bowles, Will, Dr. Fashion and the rest were all there, as well as Scarlet Eye's sister, Black Pupil. The only one missing was Cyril Ubiquitas, who had been killed. Bud was too reckless. If that guy was not reckless and went to look for death to fight with Dustless, he and I may be able to defeat him together. After a while, Esteth sighed with melancholy. She also had no way to deal with Dustless. Now she could only take one step at a time. The Emperor had ordered her to arrest Dustless again and again, but Esteth did not have the ability. Even Master Esteth is not his opponent? Curome's natural expression was stunned. I have fought with him before, and the result. In short, I lost completely. Staring at Black Pupil angrily, Esteth was very depressed. You can't be so direct even if you want to expose the scars. Speaking of Wuxian, the scene of being washed by Wuxian automatically popped up in her mind. And she was extremely sad to put a collar on herself. The streets that were crowded at ordinary times were deserted at the moment. It was all thanks to Esteth. She held a citizens' contest which attracted a large number of civilians to watch. Esteth, the strongest sadist general, was still very popular. The secret night raid base in the imperial capital. I didn't expect there to be such a place. In the secret room, Dustless strolled around with great interest. The night raid logo was clearly hung on the wall, and it was very conspicuous. Leona sat on the sofa and drank beer painfully. She had forgotten about Tatsumi's mission. As for Lubbock, he observed the situation outside through the window. Where are Chi-Tong and the others? Looking around, Dustless asked out of boredom. This mission was of great importance. Not only the three of them participated, but even Akame, Mine and Hill also participated. They're in charge of investigating, Leona said in an unusually lazy tone. As soon as her voice fell, Lubbock's voice sounded. Chi-Tong and the others seemed to have returned. How did they gather information so quickly? There won't be any problems. Gazing far away, Chi-Tong and the others were all wearing black robes. It could not be helped. Thanks to Dustless, now all the members of the night raid were almost exposed. After all, they often fought with the troops of the imperial capital. It was inevitable to be exposed. They should have found some useful information. Dustless bowed his head and said to himself. From Chi-Tong's slightly worried face he could vaguely see some clues. It must be that Tatsumi had a big problem. It is estimated that Tatsumi signed up for the citizens' contest. After a while, Dustless's eyes flashed a ray of light. The final winner can get the reward of Esteth and even test some Taigu. This is a good opportunity to get close to Esteth. If Tatsumi really wants to assassinate Esteth, then this is the best opportunity. The analysis is reasonable. After thinking carefully, Leona nodded and sighed. Tatsumi is in a hurry to die. Esteth has countless enemies. She can still be alive, which explains everything. Who knows? Maybe God will give her face and the assassination will succeed. Wuxian said with a faint smile. At the same time he looked at the exit of the machine room. Chi-Tong and the others had already appeared in his eyes. Tatsumi participated in the citizens' contest. Sure enough, as Dustless guessed, the news revealed by Chi-Tong was the same as what Dustless predicted. This guy's head is really smart. Leona glanced at Dustless incredibly and immediately frowned. There is news that Esteth will also observe. Tatsumi's identity is also exposed. If he is caught by Esteth, our night raid will be completely exposed. Hee, that's very simple, kill Tatsumi together. Dustless's extremely evil suggestion was surging between his eyebrows. If Tatsumi is really caught, in order to prevent him from leaking the news of our organization, then I will kill him. Mine raised the Taigu pumpkin, and was full of confidence. This world is really mysterious. Dustless saw this and smiled without a trace. Originally, in the original work, the relationship between Tatsumi and Mine developed to the later stage. They were lovers who were envied by others. Now it was good he instigated them to become strangers. Now Mine wanted to kill Tatsumi. The development of the situation was so wonderful. Chapter 1637. Dustless stared at the impassioned Mine. This guy obviously didn't say it casually. There was a touch of freedom and determination on her cheeks. If Tatsumi was caught and betrayed the night raid, he would be a real traitor. Let's disguise ourselves a little and sneak into the venue. Let's see what Tatsumi is going to do. Looking up at the distant sky in boredom, Dustless was actually full of expectations and curiosity about what Tatsumi would do. At this moment, the special venue for the citizens' martial arts competition was crowded with people. It was difficult to find a suitable place to stand. Tatsumi really knows how to make trouble for people. Also, how can I snipe Tatsumi in such a place? I can't even see the target clearly. Mine, who teamed up with Dustless, complained as she walked. Because she was small and short, she could hardly see the situation outside in the crowd. You are more troublesome than Tatsumi. Dustless suddenly hugged Mine, grabbed her right shoulder and right leg and put Mine on his shoulder to sit. What do you want to do? Molest. Mine was shocked by Dustless's sudden move. She recovered and scolded, "It turns out that you are a pervert. You are so troublesome. I am kind enough to find an open field for you, but you blame me. In this case you can come down." Grabbing Mine's shoulder, Dustless was about to put her down, but this guy was unhappy again. "Do you think you can put me down just because you said so? Do you have any respect for me? Don't move. The view here is the best. If Tatsumi dares to appear, I promise that I can kill him with one shot." Mine slapped Dustless's hand away rudely and groaned, "Although you are lazy, you are very reliable at the critical moment. I will depend on you." "Depend on me?" Hearing the words, Wuxian glanced at Mine, who blushed in surprise. This sentence represented a lot of meanings. He immediately joked, "You don't like me, do you? Impossible." A panic flashed in Mine's eyes. She quickly denied it and said proudly, "I fell in love with you when all the men in the world died. I guess you've really fallen for me." Wuxian continued to tease. His goal was to kill all the humans and absorb their life force to reach the level of perfection. The whole world was about to be destroyed. Naturally, Dustless was the only man left. Speaking of which, you'll be easily discovered if you're so conspicuous. Mine sat on Dustless's head. Although she was disguised, her position was too conspicuous. It was difficult not to notice her. "What's the matter?" Mine curled her lips and asked with an expression of disdain, "What's more, even if the sky falls, you will be there to support it. It's not a big deal. You've changed from the past." Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Since he joined the night raid, the style of the members of the night raid was completely different from before. Before the super fighting power of Dustless, the night raid attacked others at night. Now with the addition of Dustless, almost all of them fought with the enemy head-on. Now let's welcome the last group of contestants. The host, Will, took the microphone and announced loudly that the game had entered the end. The last two contestants stepped onto the stage under everyone's expectant gazes. One of them was tall and sturdy like a magical beast. The other one wore a mask on his head and his entire body was airtight. Judging from his physique, he was a teenager. "Mine, pay attention to that guy." Pointing to the teenager wearing a mask, Dustless said coldly, "That guy seems to be Tatsumi." "Why are you so sure?" Mine asked in a low voice. She tried to lower her voice, but she was still shocked. Dustless just took a few glances at him. "People who have been killed by me, I naturally won't remember him. But people who have grudges with me, even if he disguised himself, even if he has undergone plastic surgery, he can't escape from my eyes. What's more, what kind of person do you think will wear a mask?" Dustless asked calmly. "What kind of person will wear a mask?" Mine was silent for a few seconds and replied, "People who have done something wrong will be ashamed." Yes, it is because they have done something wrong that they will be afraid. Tatsumi, like us, is a criminal wanted by the Empire. If he wants to participate in the game, he must change his appearance. So I am sure that this person is him, and his body outline is very similar to Tatsumi. Dustless glanced at Tatsumi, then his right eye suddenly changed. The black eye instantly turned into a blue and white-eyed Tensigan. His vision became extremely clear. The scene 10 kilometers away could be seen, not to mention Tatsumi, who was close at hand. "Sure enough, it's this kid." After careful observation for more than 10 seconds, Dustless affirmed. "Phew phew phew." However, as soon as Dustless's voice fell, Mine shot out a ray of light. Boom boom boom. The violent explosion was not earth-shattering, but at least it scared everyone, and Dustless was the same, looking at Mine stupidly. "Is your head rusty?" Dustless, who came back to his senses, asked loudly. "You can only blame Tatsumi. You want to assassinate his death? If it's that simple, the Empire would have been destroyed. We can notice Tatsumi's disguise. His death will naturally notice it too. If Tatsumi is caught, His death will definitely torture Tatsumi severely. If he can't bear the torture, he will inevitably confess everything. It's best for me to take the opportunity to kill him now. Mine didn't stop, instead she fired a few more shots. Although it's a bit far-fetched, there is some truth in it. Touching his nose, Dustless found that he was convinced by mine. At the same time, Dustless also found that a large number of soldiers flocked to him and mine, including the members of Jaegers.